All right, I guess live, guys. How's it going? Oh, let's see who's in the comments here. I'm just going to hang out for a second before I start talking about the main topic, just to give people a chance to get in here. All right, we've got Warsaw, we've got Mateo, Mike J. Yeah, nice to see you guys here. It's good to be back on too. You know, I've had a pretty hard week, and I'm just glad last week's over. Let's put it that way. And just a few minutes ago, I just finished a major IT project that I've been working on for like 3.5 months, pretty hardcore. Getting a whole new building up and running, and then a bunch of other additions after that. And I've had everything going good for the last couple weeks, but tonight I just finalized a few settings with the cameras to make where remote access was working more seamlessly through different VLANs and virtual private networks and whatnot. So yeah, tonight's one of those nights where where I'm just kind of glad to be back here hanging out with you guys. Let's put it that way. Just finished my job at about 9 o'clock on a Sunday, but hey, it had to be that way. Last week was pretty rough, and just had to get through it, you know. All right, Brastard's joined. What's up, man? F&H in the house. How's it going, man? All right, guys. So yeah, tonight I thought it'd be interesting to kind of mainly talk about the Yugo AKs, okay? And the reason why I think they're interesting is because there's just so many variants, and they're kind of like variants in and of themselves, right? They're not exactly the same as like a standard AKM or RPK or AK47. Yugoslavia always kind of had its own twists on things, right? So that's why I think the Yugo AK is so cool to talk about. And for some of you guys that are just kind of getting into the AK or don't know a lot about them, here's the cool thing about the Yugo. I'm going to show you guys some really rare variants today that might be for more like an advanced collector. But I'm also going to show you guys some regular, you know, bread and butter blue collar guns that are available for a fairly affordable price. And yeah, the Yugo is pretty easy to get into. So that's why I think it's a pretty cool variant to talk about. You know, it kind of covers from, you know, kind of basic common stuff like your NPAPs and, you know, even your OPAPs and your M70 builds, all the way up to some pretty cool variants that you don't see very much. So yeah, I figured I'd talk about the Yugo AKs. Let's see who else is in here. Cave Dave, what's up, Dave? Ozark Yemen's here. How's it going, man? For any of you that aren't familiar with Ozark, he's got a cool channel. I'm a regular watching his videos and leaving comments with him, and he's been known to comment on my videos quite a bit too. So Ozark's a buddy of mine. Go check him out, guys. Francis is here. What's up, man? I was hoping you'd join. All right, anyways, yeah, guys, without further ado, we're gonna talk about the Yugo AKs a little bit, and I'll be reading the chat. If you guys have any questions, or for me, if you can just do like @GlockShooter79, or if you just type in my full name, you know, no spaces, it'll highlight it in orange. Now, if you don't do that, I'll still try to go in here and find it, but it just makes it so much easier for me on my screen if you actually put my full name in there, if it's something you want me to respond to. Now, if you're just talking crap about me, you know, like Glock Shooter sucks, you don't have to do that, because, you know, the other guys will read it and they can laugh at me. So all right, anyways, so I'm actually going to start off with a Yugo gun, and I'm going to start it off with a bang and show you guys a pretty rare a variant that's not quite an AK, but I think you guys might like it. So let me go grab this first rifle here. All right, so basically, as you guys know, the AK lineage, if you will, with most countries that use the AK, before that, they started off with an SKS, right? And Yugoslavia is no different. Their first SKS they used was an M59, real similar to like a Russian style. You know, their first one, it was kind of a straight up com block copy, if you will. Then a few years later, they developed the M59/66, right? And that one added a few, you know, unique features, like your grenade sight, your gas shutoff that turns the gun into a semi-automatic so that you can fire rifle grenades. And what you do there is you use a blank, right? That just has a powder charge. They just put a crimp on the end, so there's no projectile bullet. And that powder charge is just going to, you know, launch the grenade. There's literally just a spigot on the end that goes on there. But what you do is you shut off the gas, because they didn't want to waste the energy of the propellant to cycle the action. They wanted all that energy to launch the grenade, since it's so much heavier for projectile, right? So this variant I'm going to show you guys first is an M59-66, and I could have brought a regular boring one in, but I thought, hey, since I'm making the trip to carry this into my shop, I may as well bring a really cool version that many of you may be seeing for the first time. Oh, no problem, Mozart. Glad to have you here, man. I'm really glad to see you. So this is what you call a Yugo ceremonial rifle. And these were special rifles that were made from the ground up for ceremonial purposes. You know, parades, guarding government buildings, dignitaries' funerals, etc. So you could call this a ceremonial rifle, or you could call this a parade rifle. And you're going to notice right away, the stock is really, really nice. Nice, matte gloss finish. You don't normally see this on a Yugo, but you can see there's the CZ, Kravina Zastava logo on the back. So this is an actual issued limb saver type, if you will, recoil pad. Kind of lengthens the length of pull a little bit, which a lot of American shooters like that. Because your com block, your Warsaw packed length stocks are a little bit short for a lot of us, for what we're used to. But yeah, you can see there's a nice chrome applied to the magazine, bolt carrier. A little bit of chrome there on the upper handguard retainer, the gas tube, and then of course the chrome bayonet, which I think this chrome bayonet's pretty freaking sweet. So yeah, these are I don't know. I'm kind of timid to use the word rare, but these are rather uncommon in the United States. This specific one actually has origins from Slovenia, where our First Lady's from. So as you guys all know, when I refer to Yugoslavia, guys, as all of you are aware, and so am I, it's no longer a country, right? But for purposes of this, we're going to call all these Yugos because they were, for the most part, all made during the era of the country of Yugoslavia. So with Slovenia being part of the former Yugoslavia, they use these in their ceremonies. And this is that grenade launching spigot I was referring to. This gun's completely functional, by the way, guys. This particular one happens to be unfired, unissued. There's no signs of it actually having really any use at all, to be honest. You can still see, I don't know if the camera will focus. Yeah, you can see that little bit of orange there. This still has the original Cosmoline that we're used to seeing on, com block type rifles. So yeah. This isn't an AK, obviously, and tonight's topic's on AKs, but I always think it's cool to start an AK series off with the SKS, because as you know, this is kind of in the lineage, right? You could call it like the father of the AK. Not that the AK is really inspired off of this gun. Don't mistake what I'm saying. The action's completely different. This is just the gun that was commonly used before that. You can even see like on this cross bolt here, this is just to reinforce the stock, right? You can see there was like some heat treating. It might not pick up good on you guys' end, but in real life, it actually has that case hardened look, like what you'd see on an old time cowboy gun. But yeah, this one, this was just one of those right place at the right time, guys. There was a very, very small batch of these that came into the country a few years back. I happened to know about them as soon as they came in, and I was able to pick up 3 of these. This is my one that's, that I enjoy, and I haven't shot it yet. This is one that I kind of display and look at, and the other 2 I kept new in the box because I think these are going to be be an investment down the road. How much it's worth right now, I couldn't even really tell you guys. And I'm not bragging about how much it's worth. That's not the point of this video. I just thought I'd just show this to you guys because, hey, you guys repeatedly tell me, hey, Glock, we want to see more guns on your live streams. So I thought, yeah, I'd pull this out and show you guys something you may have not seen before. Yeah, ceremonial SKS from Slovenia, Yugoslavia. Let's see who else we got coming in here. Strike Niner, what's up, man? Let's see, who else? 6'4" Hemi Power. How's it going, man? Happy to see you again. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you too. Does it take lock mags? You had to do it, right? You know what's funny, Ozark? I'm not going to try to digress too long, but I do actually have an AK here, so I'll just pull it back out. It does take lock mags, so be careful calling me out, man. I'll surprise you. So yeah, I do actually have an AK that takes lock mags right here, but it's not Yugo, so we don't really care about this one today. Oh, let's see who else is in here. Mike J says that chrome. Yeah, the chrome is pretty cool. And if you guys are familiar with the SKS, there's other countries that did this too. There's the Chinese ceremonial that they have the chrome, kind of similar thing. I think the Yugos are a little neater than the Chinese though, because the Yugos, they actually use different wood on the stocks and just really tried to do like a better job with the fit and finish of the whole rifle. Like you could tell it was made by their master gunsmiths, let's just say. Whereas the Chinese are typically just kind of a regular one that they chrome plated. Yes, Ozark, that chrome is from the factory. Yes, these were hand selected, made just in small batches, like dozens at a time for ceremonial purposes. But yes, this is a factory Zastava gun. Thanks for bringing that up. In case any of you guys didn't know, this is not something that was done here in the United States. Certainly wasn't done by me. This was actually done at the Zastava factory, present-day Serbia, former Yugoslavia. So it's a real deal military issue gun. And that's what makes it kind of unique, to be honest. They literally only made them by the dozens. There was a small batch of these that had come in from Slovenia that they had that were extras, I guess you could say, that had never been used. Yep. And yes, this is real chrome treating, Warsaw. This is not a chrome paint. It's a true chrome, just like what you put on your Harley or like a chrome bumper on your hot rod. It's a real deal chrome plating. Let's see here. Yes, for those of you that haven't seen my past streams, I did a whole nother stream on Yugo Tokarevs. There's a bunch of varieties of those. I tried to go through those the best I could. And I'm going to do AKs tonight. I can do some more SKS stuff another time. And there's also Mausers, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff from Yugoslavia, right? So let me see what I have here next. I have quite a few Yugos in the room. All right, I'm going to do the M70 AB2. Actually, I got a couple of them here. And I can go over the AB2, and I can also tell you guys a little bit about the history of, yeah, Century Arms, like back in the day when they very, very first started to get into building AK kits that they didn't actually build, by the way. All right, so this is one you guys have probably seen before. I don't know if these are still currently available, but these have been available within the last few years. And this is what you call an M70 AB2, right? It's a stamped receiver, thick stamped receiver. Oops, I hit my computer desk, guys, sorry. This is a 1.5 millimeter receiver. So we're talking like RPK style receiver, right? And similar to an RPK, you're going to see it has what's called the bulged front trunnion. So where we see the sheet metal jut out here, it's bulged out because the trunnion's, you know, fairly thicker right here on both sides. And that just adds extra support, extra metal. If there's more metal, it's not going to heat up as quick. It's just a heavier duty feature, just to make the whole gun a little bulkier and beefier. Faster rates of fire is one advantage. And in the case of the Yugoslavians rather, they were really, really looking for these rifle grenades. This seems to be a reoccurring theme. You know, starting with the SKS, and they brought it right into the AK. Now the SKS, I already put it over there. It has just a little like actuated lever that you move over to turn off the gas, and then it has like a ladder grenade sight. These, if you look, the front starts to look a little different here, right? This guy. Now, this isn't the shoulder thing that goes up like the anti-gunners talk about, right? What this is your grenade sight, and this serves two purposes. So as the sight comes up, you're going to see it pivoting right here. And there's a little valve that's actually turning the gas off. So when you flip this up, it's just one step. You flip it up. Now you're going to no longer use your regular front sight. You're going to use this ladder sight. And that's calibrated for different yardages, or meters in this case, of rifle grenades. It's also turning off the gas, making this gun into a semi-auto, bolt action. Magazine fed still. You'd still load your magazine up with these blanks I was referring to earlier. Shoot a grenade. It's not going to eject. Nothing's going to happen to the carrier. The carrier might slightly move back, like, a little bit just because of the concussion, but it's not going to actually cycle it. And then you would just stroke it back like a straight pull bolt action, if you will. Eject, load the next round, and fire your rifle grenades. And these rifle grenades were a big deal for their manual of arms. Like, if you guys study Yugoslavia, they were huge into rifle grenades. That was like literally one of the main purposes of these guns, is of course to use them as a fighting rifle, but also as portable grenade launchers. Now, I don't have it on here, and I'm kind of bummed at myself. I left it at home. This has a regular sugar scoop slant brake on the end, like you guys are familiar with. To launch the grenades, there's a spigot, it's called, that looks just like what was on the end of that SKS. And you just simply unthread this off, thread the grenade launching spigot on. And yeah, that's what they hook to. So you guys can see the point, right? This will thread off. And of course, this is left-hand thread, so I'm loosening it right now to tighten it on. It's lefty-tighty and righty-loosey, which is the exact opposite of most of the threads we're familiar with here, right? And then this guy's heavy. Like, if you guys have had one of these, you know what I mean. This thing weighs like substantially more than a regular AKM. It's got the heavy-duty dust cover. But here's how you guys can usually tell with an AK. If you don't see the ribs on the top for reinforcement, you've usually got a heavy profile dust cover. And this goes across all countries. Some of them are like about, I'd say 30% thinner, and they usually have reinforcement ribs, right? Gussets for strength. Whenever you don't see the gussets, that's a sure sign you've got a thicker, heavy-duty type dust cover. And like I said, not that I can't hold it or anything, but the weight's starting to add up. Like, you could imagine holding one of these in the ready position for too long, it gets heavy. And that's the other thing too, with a folding stock AK, these are actually heavier than fixed stocks, even though it doesn't look like it, right? It looks pretty skeletonized and whatnot. But yeah, this is adding on probably another, if I had to guess, 8 to 12 ounces just in the stock alone. Another feature that has to do with firing these rifle grenades is most AKMs, you just use we call it the button, but we know it's the end of the recoil assembly, right? You push the button in, and the top cover will just come off. Well, these actually have a pin in the back that's spring actuated, spring loaded pin, and you actually have to push this pin in, and then that's going to allow, let me see if I can do this on camera, guys. It's always, for those of you that do these videos, you know that you always look retarded trying to do this on camera. Now that I'm pushed in, this will move, right? As soon as I release that, the travel is limited to almost nothing. So that's another grenade launching feature. Because of the concussion from the grenade rattling the rifle loose, they didn't want the dust cover to pop off. So as you're noticing here, there's kind of a theme. Everything's built around these grenades, And this is a Century Arms assembled rifle. Now, for you newcomers to the game here, we look at now Century Arms manufacturing rifles, right? They started off with like their C39, C39 V2, Raz 47, Visca. Those are actual USA made rifles that aren't necessarily made by Century per se, but they're made by their vendors here in the United States. And these are American made parts. Depends who you are. Questionable quality, questionable tolerances, etc. Right? I'm not trying to get down that rabbit hole tonight. That's a whole nother night. However, before Century was into building their own rifles, like from scratch, if you will, in-house, Century was an assembler. And they were actually just a middleman before that. But at this point, when this gun was made, this gun was assembled by Century Arms, okay, off of an M70 AB2 kit. So what a kit is basically, and I'm sorry for you guys that know a lot about this or know more than me, but I've been getting a lot of questions lately that are pretty darn basic. So I just wanted to go over that for, you know, anyone that's kind of new into this. When I say kit, what I mean is if you have a machine gun, right, it can't be imported in the United States. After 1968, no more machine guns could be imported from other countries. Then, as you guys know, in 1986 with the Hughes Amendment, they made it where unless it was grandfathered in, registered in other words, before, I think it was May 19 of 86, civilians couldn't own machine guns at all. So really for a gun like this, you're looking at 1968. So since this gun was obviously brought into the country after 68, it had to come in as what's called a parts kit. So what that means is if you cut a rifle's receiver in a certain amount of pieces with a torch and you leave a section out, there's no specific guidelines, but it's basically something like that. It no longer becomes a gun anymore. It's not a firearm. It's not a machine gun. It's actually technically not legally anything as of right now. Now, we need to stop HR 7115 because that changes everything. But as of right now, it's not a gun anymore. And I have a Yugo kit right here. This is part of a parts kit. So that's a perfect example I'm getting at. They cut it with a torch, this part of the receiver. Now the rest of the kit has the back third of it, you know, but the middle section's missing. You get the little bit of the bottom of the middle with the trigger guard, but yeah. So this gun right here came in looking something like this with all the other parts, and it was assembled in the United States off of an American-made receiver. This is your receiver. This is legally the firearm right here, the part with all the rivets. United States-made barrel. That's because there was a separate ban. Now, when you talk about what they call original barrel kits, those were the kits back a few years ago where they would just cut the receiver up, right? And the ATF said, that's fine. Just cut the receiver up. And the original barrel would still stay intact, still pinned into the trunnion. You would still have the riveted stubs on there. Now this, you can see the barrel was cut. That's because I'm going to say about 5 or 6 years ago, they banned it and the ATF changed it again, just like they are with bump stocks, just with some willy-nilly rule. They said, nope, the barrel of a machine gun is now considered a machine gun itself for the purposes of importation. So they had to start cutting the barrels up. So when this kit got into this country, it was every part to make it a functional gun, minus a receiver, minus a barrel, right? So this has a USA-made receiver, a USA-made barrel. One more thing, not to bore you guys too much, but there's another pesky thing that importers and you know, FFLs, FFL class 7s, which is like a builder type FFL, manufacturing FFL, if you will, they have to follow what's called Section 922R of the Gun Control Act of 1968. As amended by executive action by George Bush, the first George Bush, that said, hey, look, if a foreign gun comes in and it's a military-style assault rifle, in 1989, they said, look, it can have all foreign parts. It just can't be a machine gun. After 89, they made this stupid point system, right? And they said, you can't have any more than 10 foreign parts. If it has more than 10 foreign parts, it's considered a foreign, quote-unquote, assault rifle, and it's not allowed to be imported into the country. It's not allowed to be assembled in the country. Some people say this applies to end users and homeowners. I'm not going to say whether it does or not because I'm not a lawyer, and I would never want to give you guys legal advice. But let's just say it does apply to importers and manufacturers. So they had to replace this because it was cut up, the receiver, right? They also, unfortunately, had to cut the barrel up because this was after the barrel ban. So we got a couple U.S. parts there. And then they changed the trigger group over, which is 3 more U.S. parts. Hammer, disconnector, and trigger, right? And then on this one, I'm going to guess to further the 922R compliance, because this has an original Yugo pistol grip on it. I think what they did is I changed these out to battlefield pickup, right? These are original Balkan Wars battlefield pickup handguards with trench art, battle scars. I think they put U.S. compliant handguards on here. Yeah, there's a better look at those handguards. These are pretty cool. These are back from when Apex was selling Battlefield pickup Romanian and Yugo furniture pretty cheap, right? You can see someone was carving some notches in there. Don't know what that means. If that's just for grip, or if they were notching their death toll up on the handguards, who knows? And then there's a little indentation where the underfolder stock's worn away over the years. So yeah, this gun is basically almost all Yugoslavian. It just has to have the required American parts, the receiver, and the barrel. And this gun was assembled by Century Arms. At this time, they were Century Arms Inc., Georgia, Vermont. And I only say that because they've definitely changed locations over the years. So yeah, this is an M70 AB2. This has the original Yugo type mag, and I'll show you guys that feature. The Yugo mags are just a little different, right? They actually have what's called a bolt hole open follower in them. So on an empty mag, last round cycles, and the charging handle stops to the back. Now, this isn't true bolt hole open like would be on your AR or M4, right? There's no actual mechanism in here to keep it open. This is literally just the follower having like a 90-degree shelf on the back of it that's going to stop the lower, bolt area. So, coincidentally, as soon as I go to start to remove this mag, the bolt's going to slide home. So, it kind of has bolt hold open, but not exactly. This is a feature that's all within the follower. And there you go. You can see this follower has a 90-degree straight back on it. Most followers have this same angle like how the front of the follower looks. If you look at the front of this here, this little ridge, see how it's angled? Where the bolt could just slide over it. Most communist block mags are going to have that kind of shape in the back. The quote-unquote Yugo mags do not. And these mags, by the way, will work in any AK. You don't have to have a Yugo to use these. So if you like the magazine bolt hole open feature, you can use these in your other AKM or AK47 variants. I'm not a big bolt hole open guy, but I do like to, collect these guns and keep them historically accurate. So I do tend to at least display my Yugos with a proper mag. Now, if I was going to be shooting this gun for a while, I would actually probably just use a regular AKM mag because, again, I'm not a big fan of bolt hole open. But that's just my personal preference. Most people would say bolt hole open's a key feature, right? So, but yeah, these mags are really pretty. They have a nice bluing on them. Very, very sturdy mags, heavy duty. I definitely recommend a Yugo mag. And if you like the bolt hole open feature, you're really going to like these. So that's, like I said, M70 AB2. Let me check the comments, see if you guys had any questions about these. Of course, I'm on camera, guys. Like, you'd think this is the first time I've ever put a mag in, And then I'm on camera and I don't know how to put a mag in anymore. It doesn't help that I almost lost the tip of this finger. If you guys have been watching my videos, it's just now getting to where it's starting to heal really good. But if you watch my videos for a while there, I'd always be doing this in my videos. So I just figured I'd tell you guys that because someone actually asked me that, like, Doc, why does it look like you're always flipping us off? Go back and watch my videos for the last month and a half, and I'm always doing this. That's because I took such a big chunk out of the face of this finger. It was nasty. But it's just now getting to where I'm really lucky. Let's just put it that way. It's healing good. So, but I'm still trying to just favor this finger just a little bit here until it finishes healing. Anyways, let's see what we got here, guys. Yeah, some people don't like the stock. I get it. The stock serves a purpose, It makes the rifle very compact. I mean, look at it right here, right? Just with a simple push of a button, it definitely makes the vehicle easier while riding in a vehicle, shooting out of a vehicle. Yeah, it's not going to be comfortable to shoot this way, but hey, this gun's fully functional with this stock folded. So it just serves its purpose, obviously. For any of you who have ever been in the service, I have not been. You could probably tell me 100 reasons why you might want this in a battle situation, right? And then, of course, you guys are going to tell me a dozen reasons why you wouldn't want this stock, too. I totally get that. Oh, I almost forgot one of the coolest features, guys, before I go on to the next one. These actually had integrated night sights. And these night sights on the first gen Yugos, they were a phosphorus material, right? Because phosphorus is naturally has like a luminescent qualities to it. And then they actually upgraded them by the time you got into the 80s with real tritium vials. So here's your regular sights, just a regular little open sight that we normally have on the AK. And then there's a little lip here where I can actually flip this up. And this still has the tritium vials in it, but they're burnout. Because as you guys know, probably from your police trading Glocks you bought, it'll have tritium, but it'll be burnt out a lot of times. I think they say the reliable life of tritium is about 10 years, right? Let's just say. And after that, they burn out. So if you look closely, though, on the side here of that little night sight tab, you can see a little hole there. See that? That's the end of the tritium vial. It has one on each side. So these tritium vials actually come in from the sides. And then there's two little holes drilled. You're still using the same rear notch. That doesn't change. But what's going to happen is there's two little holes next to the rear notch. They're going to light up with the tritium and can kind of guide you through, right? So at that point in time, your eyes, since it's dark out, aren't even going to see the notch anymore. You're just going to see the two little tritium dots. And then you're going to come up to the front, and it's the same thing. Right now, we just have our regular post, like you normally would. There's a little flip up here. It's got two little ears to grab onto it. Let me try to find the right camera. There we go. I've got it halfway up right now. Flip this up, same thing. There's a tritium vial, and in this case, there's a little hole in the top. Yep, you can see that little dimple. So the tritium vial comes in through the top, and it actually sit there, and it comes right through the middle. So you're going to see a single tritium dot on the front, and you're going to see two little tritium dots on the back. So pretty advanced, actually. One of the only AK variants that actually have the tritium built into the gun. Now the Yugo, not the Yugos, the East Germans, they have what they call clip-on night sights. So instead of just having a simple little shelf that flaps up like this, right, like a little hinge assembly, they actually had a separate apparatus that you had to carry in your gear. You got it issued, and it would actually clip on with these little spring tension clips. So yes, other countries had night sights, but the Yugoslavias were kind of innovative in that they actually had them built into the gun. And this is in like the 1970s and 80s, guys. So pretty technologically advanced at the time. And I saw this guy on eBay a while back that actually sells the tritium vials that are to the exact size for these. So you can actually go in here and drive these out with a little like jeweler's punch and then carefully press the new ones back in. So yeah, that's a thing. You can actually revitalize these and bring them right back if you want, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, there's a M70 AB2. Now here's another M70 AB2. And I don't need to talk about the gun a whole lot. The reason I brought this one with me, you know, it's the same type of thing. You've got your flip-up night sights, right? Oh, that's going to be about the same. This is like the very, very beginning, this example of Century actually building kits in the United States. And a couple things are a little different about it. If you look at this one here, let me go back to the first one. Okay. And if you look at the side of the rear sight base, you're going to see that it's just black and it has like a phosphate finish. But you're going to notice there's no markings here. Okay. I'll show you in a second, but Century actually scrubbed these markings off for whatever reason, which kind of bums me out because I like to have authentic markings, you know. They scrubbed them off. Now, this is one of the very, very first Century builds, and this is actually pre-Century build. Century themselves didn't actually build this gun. This is when they were basically contracting everything out, and they were just serving as like the middleman to market them to the public. This one, just like this kit, I'll go back to this kit. This is an M72 kit, which is an RPK, but for all intents and purposes, the same thing for what we're talking about here. Why is this not showing up today? Anyways, there's the marking on there from the original factory roll mark. It has the little C and the Z. That's the Zastava logo. And it does not stand for CZ like as in Czech Republic, right? It's CZ as in Crvena Zastava. And it says Zastava Kragujevac, Yugoslavia. And this is how these guns rolled off the line, right? They had their factory roll mark, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know why it won't focus. My thumbnail, it turned out beautiful. Same lighting, same everything, but whatever. Now, this is a very early build, and Century did not scrub them off at this point yet. Well, that's because Century didn't actually build these guns. But there you go. This has the same Zastava roll mark on it. There, you guys can see it a little better at that angle, I think. There we go. Perfect. Zastava, Kragujevac, Yugoslavia, with that little CZ. So to me, just being a collector and really, you know, enjoying the history of these guns, I enjoy this so much more because I like the original factory markings, right? I think most of you guys do too. Let's see here. The other differences are, if you look at this more recent Century build, and when I say recent, I purchased this gun about 5 years ago. You'll notice the carrier is also phosphated. See how it's that matte black, dark gray color? Well, Yugoslavia never did this, guys. This is not the proper finish, which again, if you're shooting the gun, who cares, right? Some of you might even think it looks cooler. But Zastava did not make the gun like this. This has been finished here in the United States. Now, on the original ones that Century didn't really get their dirty little mitts on, the bolt carrier is still in the white. So this just has more of a polished look. This is how the gun is supposed to look, guys. This is how it looked when it was in service in Yugoslavia. So a couple little things like that makes this gun, again, to someone that actually cares about the history of it, it makes this gun, in my opinion, a little more desirable than the other one, notwithstanding that they're the same model. And then here's one more little interesting piece of trivia about this gun. I don't know if there's anyone out there that's a fan of the 1911. And if you are, you've probably heard of Dan Coonan, right? Now, what Coonan was most famously for is he made 1911s that were in like pistol calibers, right? Like revolver calibers, I should say. Not pistol calibers, revolver calibers. Like actual rimmed, you know, cartridge 1911s. Let's say like a 357 Magnum 1911. I'm sure you guys have heard of those Coonan revolvers. Well, what Coonan was into previously is, if you look at this roll mark, it's probably not going to focus, but I'll try, guys. Okay. There we go. Century Arms Inc., model M70 AB2. And then if you look at, though, it just says Century Arms Inc. It doesn't say Georgia, Vermont anymore, because they weren't the legal builder of this receiver at this point. Their very first ones, this says, specifically it says DC Industries, St. Paul, Minnesota, USA. So this receiver was made by DC Industries, and if I haven't given it away yet, you can guess what DC stands for. DC is actually Dan Coonan. So the famous Dan Coonan that made the 1911s that some of you guys might be fans of was actually in the AK receiver business a long time ago. And in my opinion, these are probably about the best Centuries to get. The ones that were actually made by Dan Coonan and just had Century's name on the top as a middleman. And here's how we know. We can prove Century was just a middleman because these markings are not optional here, right, guys? Like the ATF mandates these exact markings, and they're very specific. You have to have the manufacturer's name, you have to have the caliber, the serial number, and you have to have the city and state. Well, if Century made this gun or even assembled it, because for ATF purposes, just assembling all the parts into the receiver, that's considered manufacturing. So by law, if Century actually had their hands on this gun, it would have to have Century's address. It doesn't. It has DC Industries, Dan Coonan's address. So this is actually a Dan Coonan rifle, Dan Coonan receiver. Century's name's just on the top as like the marketer, the secondary FFL that was involved, if you will. And it's fine. You can dual stamp a gun. That's totally legal. You can have the first originator and then the next FFL that dealt in it. But whose address is on there is actually the clue of who the gun actually really came from. So I thought this might be a little bit of not necessarily Yugoslavia history for you guys, but the history of like how these guns started coming into the U.S. And this would be what we would call not an early import. Because when I call a gun an import, that's going to be like a factory built gun, right? Like a pre-ban or a ban era or a post-ban gun. Like how they come in nowadays as a sporter, single stack magwell. They have to hollow it out. They have to change over. They have to rethread the barrel, or I should say thread the barrel, re-weld the bayonet lug. Those are factory guns. Those are imports. This is a kit build. So what this represents is not a pre-ban import or any of that, but it does represent one of the very, very first kit builds that were coming into the United States. So this is kind of a piece of modern United States AK history. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna check the comments, see if any of you guys think that part of the story is interesting. And Century's changed a lot over the years, guys, is what I'm trying to get at. They've gone from, you know, just procuring parts, being the middleman here, to actually building parts kits on receivers that, by the way, they never technically made, but they did the final assembly, so they were considered the maker of the gun. And now they've gone even further into making their own guns, like quote unquote from scratch, right? So just a little bit of Century history for you young guys out there, or guys that are, you know, old but new into the AK. Let me get these out of my way. All right, let's see what's going on in the comments. It's good to be back on, guys, by the way. Hope I'm not boring you. I'm just trying to do a little more of an educational. I think a lot of you guys are kind of wondering about these guns. I'm really just trying to take my time right now. And listen, I'm not qualified to be a professor or a teacher, so I don't want to say that, but I'm just trying to pass on a little bit of stuff to share with you guys, you know. Next stream will probably be like a political rant, right? All right, let's see here. Zeke Shoots is here. What's up, Zeke? Does anyone know that guy? Is he new? Let's see here. Zeke Shoots Live. Ooh, that's not actual Zeke, guys. Zeke Shoots Live. That's that Sega barrel pin guy. So if you haven't checked out Zeke Shoots yet, go check him out. If you want to see the famous Sega barrel pin drama video that's been mentioned in other people's videos lately, it's none other than Zeke Shoots Live himself here. So thank you, SwitchPod. Glad to see you stopped in. Okay, Cave Dave looks like he's doing an M72 build. Yep, that's that little stub I was showing you guys. That's an M72, otherwise known as basically Yugoslavia's RPK, which I'm going to show you guys those in a few minutes. So don't think you're going to get away that easy. There's a few RPKs in the house today too. Let's see here. There's a lot of comments tonight, which is awesome, guys. So if I miss something here, I'm not dissing you. Everyone I see in here is my bud. So, and I don't really see my name highlighted in orange, guys. So if you're asking me a specific question, I'm not seeing it a whole lot. Okay, Mateo earlier, he said, but wait, is the thing that goes up? Oh boy, that could have several meanings. Okay, let's see here. Ooh, so Warsaw says, I'd feel bad for Englishmen living in the UK if they owned a Yugo AK and they welded the grenade sight for bolt action style shooting. That's pretty tough. Yeah, these are heavy. These M70s are heavy. The M72 is like stupid heavy, right? Because that's, by the way, even on these M70 AB2s, the barrel profile is quite thick. It's more like a Chinese or like an AK47 profile. It's not an AKM profile barrel. So you're getting a lot of extra weight there too. SwitchPod, if you were late after it's over, you might want to watch the beginning. There's a neat treat at the beginning, a pretty cool SKS that you might like. Let's see here. You guys are talking about some kits. Yeah, like Mateo said, it's not the guys cutting the kits that's the issue. It's the morons that made the requirement to do so. I totally agree. And that's the thing, too. People don't realize they've been doing little nitpicky things for years. Like I said, the first George Bush is the one that said no more than 10 foreign parts. He did all that crap. Then The barrel band was, I might be off on my dates here. It was either, I think time's flying a little bit. I don't think it was 6 years ago, like I said earlier. I'm going to say the barrel ban might have been more like, I don't know, it was late George Bush the second, or it was early Obama. It's been a few years now since they banned the, quote, original barreled receivers, meaning the actual barrel that was part of the machine gun is still intact, still populated, still penned into the trunnion. Unfortunately, that's kind of gone, guys, and they just did it with a real quick executive action. It didn't get all the attention that the bump stock ban's getting. It didn't get all the attention when they tried to ban the M85. It's just like the 7 and 6. Historically, when they go after stuff that doesn't really affect a lot of people, it just kind of just gets swept right through and nobody even cares. I mean, NRA certainly doesn't care. They're the ones that are usually sponsoring all this crap. So that's another quick history lesson for you guys. When I talk about an original barreled kit, what I mean is there was a time you could get a kit that came in that had the original barrel, like literally from Russia, from China, from Yugoslavia, whatever country. It's still completely intact, exactly the way it was when it left the arsenal, or armory, I should say, not the arsenal where it was made, but the armory. In some cases, they left the arsenal as new old stock, but it's exactly the same as it was when it was a functional machine gun. They only cut the receiver. Now, they not only torch cut the receiver, but they also have to torch cut your barrel into a bunch of little pieces. So anyone that's new to this has not always been the thing. And that's why people used to like to build AKs so much, because back in the day, you could get a kit for well under $100. You didn't even need to buy a barrel. Like literally, you just had to buy the receiver. And if you believe 922R applies to individuals, then you had to buy the 922R parts. People that don't believe it applies to individuals, they didn't even have to buy those. So you could get by pretty darn cheap building an AK back before this stupid barrel ban. And for those of you that have built, it made it a lot easier too, right? Because you still needed to check headspace, but a lot of times the headspace was good. Sometimes it was off. But either way, you didn't have to populate the barrel, which takes a lot of time. It's a whole nother set of tools. So, yeah. And I have some, I'm going to do a video one of these days on kits. And when I do that, I'll bring some original barrel kits in to let you guys see those so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I still got some more Yugo stuff to talk about tonight, so I'm going to move on here from that. Yeah, I think underfolders are really cool. It's just like a cool factor. Even though, yes, it's not comfortable against your shoulder. Yes, it's going to be miserable against your cheek in the cold. There's just something cool about them. Let's see here. Ooh, Zeke Shoots Live uses uranium vials. Blue glow. Never lets you down. Shelf life of over 200 million years. And when you're dead after holding it by your face, I'm sure your body will be preserved for that long too. Plutonium sites are the best. There you guys go. Yeah, I know some of my buddies are in here now. After reading all this. Okay, what have we got here? Repair series on the AK. I can't do that, Mike J, but Zeke can. I can do it, but I can't publish it anywhere right now to speak of. I can go on like YouTube, but that's kind of like the Alex Jones channel now. I could do it on a few other ones, but there's just not that many of you guys on those other sites. But I can't do a repair really on YouTube. Maybe a few things, but not to speak of. And plus, by the way, building more of Zeke's thing, guys. What I like to do is talk, I like to talk politics, as you guys know, about gun rights. I like to rant and rave about gun rights. I like to talk about the history of the guns and show you guys guns. So, as always, I'm gonna usually defer to Zeke Shoots, Mel 64D, those type of guys for more of the building stuff. Even though I would like to fool around with it more if it wasn't for YouTube's rules. Let's see what we got going here. Yep, the bolt carrier should be polished from earlier. Yep, SwitchPod mentioned a double folder. That's kind of a Chinese thing, but in some cases, the Yugos actually use them. And Zeke slightly talked about that the other day, where I have been seeing actually in the Middle East a Yugo rifle with a Chinese type spike bayonet front sight assembly, with a spiker. That's what you call a true double folder. 90% of the time Chinese. Also been seen though in Yugoslavia, not in Yugoslavia, but on Yugoslavian rifles put together in the Middle East. Presumably from the Chinese AKs that are over there, and the Yugos, probably somebody kind of Frankenstein them together. Because I'm never aware of Yugoslavia themselves actually putting spike bayonets on them. Okay. So while we're talking folders, I have another one here. This is a gun that just till about a year or two ago, you could get very easily in the United States. And these even dropped down pretty cheap not too long ago. This is what's called an M70 PAP. Specifically, this one's called an M70 DF, and that stands for the underfolder. So this is going to look a lot like the M70 AB2 I just showed you. Couple big differences, though. First of all, keep in mind, this is a gun that was made for export to civilians, namely the United States, but also some other countries. This rifle never served in the military. The specific rifle was not reconstructed from a parts kit. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said an actual factory gun, meaning this gun was completely made from head to toe, and at this point in time, Serbia, because Yugoslavia had dissolved, head to toe, the gun was made in Serbia, right? At the same Zastava factory that was in Yugoslavia. The only difference is, due to the fact that George Bush signed that assault weapons ban, and they couldn't bring the gun in how it looks right now. They actually had to bring the gun in without a pistol grip, okay? Without the ability to even accept a high capacity mag. So there's a couple ways they do that. Sometimes they'll have a single stack mag well where the mag just won't fit. Sometimes they get around it by having a regular full capacity, you know, double stack mag well, but they won't put like the feed ramp, the bullet guide in there, right? And that technically, in some cases, the ATF has approved that of a way for it to not accept high capacity mags. In other cases, like with the Polar Sporters, they actually literally didn't even cut a hole out at all on the bottom to accept a mag. So there's different ways they do that. So this gun came in as a sporting rifle, right? Under the sporting exemption clause. If you guys ever hear them say sporting purposes, that's basically saying, look, all foreign guns are banned from being imported, period. And then it says asterisk unless it serves a quote unquote sporting purpose. That's why over the years you've heard different guns called sporters, right? Like Mac 90 Sporter, or they'll call them hunting rifles. If it's found to serve a sporting or hunting purpose, they'll provide exemption for these guns to come in. So what they do is they bring the gun in as a sporter rifle. Then here stateside, the importer is going to re-add the evil features back on. They're going to thread the muzzle, because this comes in with an unthreaded muzzle. What else have we got here on this one? They're going to open up the mag well on it, right? These either come without these stocks in place, or I've heard sometimes these underfolder stocks are actually like tack welded. And I'm not trying to be vague, guys. It's literally like a case-by-case basis. The ATF can say, look, you can bring in I was going to say a Saiga, a Russian rifle, right? But they don't bring them in anymore. But I'll still use them as an example. They might say, hey, look, Ishmael, you can bring in a Saiga rifle this way, and we'll call it a sporter. And then Zastava could say, okay, I'm going to make our AK in the same format as an Ishmael. Nope, it doesn't work for you. For you to bring your NPAP in, now we want you to do it this other way. So it gets really, really nuanced. And this is the reason why, like with this bump stock ban, we don't want bureaucrats making law. Because bureaucrat makes law, and there's no standards. It's basically like, you know, in one case they do this, in one case they do that. So with that said, without going down a whole bunch of rabbit holes you guys don't care about, it's a little different every time, but let's just say this came in as a sporting rifle. Now, with this being made for the civilian market, we're not really worried about launching grenades anymore, but it still has a few carryovers. So if you look at the back, we still have the button with the detent. It's got a little crossbar on the back that actually stops movement of the recoil assembly. So that's still there. But if you go to the front, the big signature of these Yugo folders is that grenade launching assembly and gas shut off. This doesn't have that. It was never designed to shoot grenades. You're also going to notice it does not have the tritium anymore. There's no little flip-up tritium sight here, and it also lacks the flip-up tritium sight in the front. So those are a little bit different. Now, the other big thing you're going to notice is different here is this has a slab-sided receiver, right up front here. Not a true slab side. It does have dimples. I'm sorry, I kind of misspoke. This does not have a bulged front trunnion. So this, rather than being built on more of an RPK stature, this would fit more closer into an AKM. And I say closer because it's basically like closer-ish. Even though this is still like a little more AKM profile as far as the receiver goes, the non-bulged trunnion, it's still got a little extra weight to it. This rifle is by no means light, guys. So it's a little beefier than an AKM, but by no means is this rifle going to be as beefy as like the M70 AB2 style. I will note, though, there's a few little things I like here. They did put the proper XY dimples in, okay? Here's where your what's known as the auto sear. It's really called a safety sear or an out of battery safety. That's where the famous third pinhole would go right there, right in that access point. So yeah, they still carried over and used a military looking receiver, which I like. That's nice. The other thing nice about these NPAP DFs is they actually imported them with real Yugoslavian wood. This is not that Century balsa wood like you see on the Raz and like you see on the Visca and a lot of their other rifles. For some reason, when you bought the underfolder, they gave you real mil-spec handguards. Now, if you bought the fixed stock version of this, which is just simply the M70 NPAP rather, the M70 NPAP would come in two ways. It would come with either wood fixed stock and wood handguards or synthetic. Now, for some reason, they were willing to give you real Yugoslavian wood here on this gun, but if you get the NPAP with the fixed wood stock, you get that balsa wood, that junk Century wood that's put on here by Century for your fixed stock, and then they also put that junk balsa wood in the front. Now, I don't think they called that American Maple. American Maple is something they started talking about with the Visca. I think on the NPAPs they were calling it like, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but they had some fancy name for it, like maybe it was beechwood or whatever it was. It's junk though, guys. That's literally one of the worst things about these Century guns, and you don't have to take my word for it. Watch some of the guys that have done some tests online. The screws always get loose in the back. They're getting cracks and chips out of them. The wood's garbage. Whether the gun's garbage or not, that's something for another day. But the only reason I'm bringing all that up is I thought it was pretty cool that they gave you, this is real deal Yugoslavian wood that's on par with the wood that's on my other ones that are made from. So this would be like an M70 AB1. And you don't see these very often, but just so you guys know, even though this gun was completely made in former Yugoslavia, now called Serbia, this isn't like just a total made up variant. This variant does actually exist, okay? And they made them not in as large in numbers as the AB2s, but they did make, for military service, a non-bulged trunnion underfolder. Now, if this was the military version, it would have also had the night sights. So this is lacking a few things. But in the spirit of things, this isn't a bad clone. And the fact that this is what I call a factory gun. If you guys ever hear me, by the way, in the chat saying factory gun, I get it. You could call Century a factory. You could call Riley a factory. That's not what we mean when we refer to a factory-built gun. When we say factory-built, we mean like a military arsenal. A factory that actually in the past or presently makes, you know, the standard arms for whatever country's military. So this is what I would call a factory gun. I would also call this an import. This is an actual import. And yeah, it has an original cold hammer forged, okay, Zastava Serbian-made barrel, non-chrome line. Gosh, there's so much to talk about, guys, but that's another thing with Yugoslavia. For their 7.62 by 39 variants, whether it be the SKS I just showed you, or whether it be their various, well, let's call them AKs for lack of a better word right now, because this isn't really an AKM, remember, it's not really a RPK. They're kind of like their own thing. They're just kind of like Yugos, right? They always made non-chrome lined barrels. So It's nothing that they cheaped out on. This is just the standard way that they do things there. So yeah, this is a gun you guys might be familiar with. The NPAP DF. And let me see if I can get this roll mark to show up. The roll mark's right on here. Yep, made in Serbia. So that's what I mean by calling this a factory gun or an import gun. Made in Serbia. Pretty cool. Importer's mark. This is back direct to Century again. CAI, Georgia, Vermont. But then we got all this crap nowadays, like read owner's manual before use. What have we got down here? Yeah, and model NPAP DF Cal 762x39. I don't know, do any of you guys have these? I have a feeling someone out there probably has one of these. These were, and they're still not like that hard to get, but these were like $500 caliber money, like about a year ago. Okay, maybe a year and a half now. Less than 2 years ago, this was only a $500 gun. Factory made, cold hammer forged, imported barrel. That's why when I say I wouldn't spend $600 for a Visca, it's because this stuff's still out there. You could probably find one of these for $600, maybe even $700 on Gun Broker, I'm going to guess. I hope they're not more than that now. I don't know. So, yeah, there's an NPAP. All right. I'm going to take a little break in a few minutes, but before I do that, let's show you another NPAP. Okay. So that's the NPAP DF because it has the folding stock. This is just a regular old NPAP. As shipped. Now this has the composite stock. And back to that whole 922R thing. This is part of the 922R compliance. It's also a feature that some people like. I don't normally like a composite stock AK. If I had to choose though, with one of these, remember I told you, the Century, when they do the conversion on them here, the 922R, they give you real Yugo wood on the underfolder. But if you have a fixed stock version, you get that balsa wood, that pine wood derby car wood for both your stock and your handguards. It's going to crack and fall off. So if you want an NPAP that's an actual shooter, I would highly recommend this stock setup. Okay? It's got more of an American length stock. This is much longer than the Warsaw pack. It's going to feel a lot more comfortable for your average American guy, right? And yeah, it doesn't really look that classy with the stock on here. But if you're just talking a shooter functionality, this stock's good to go. I mean, it's a reinforced polymer stock. Never heard of one of these cracking. Just a Century wood, right? And if you notice too, the DF, which is the underfolder, it has the original Zastava military pistol grip. On these, they switched it over to this. I don't know. I don't like rifles with finger grooves, guys. This is a Century made pistol grip. I'm not a fan of it at all. And yes, some militaries use composite stocks. Of course, I know that. And there's even some Yugos that their military correct would be to have a composite stock. I'm just saying in the case of the M70, okay, this is something Century did. This is not the correct stock as imported. However, it's still a made in Serbia gun. This is still an import. This is still what I call a factory gun. Now this actually has a side scope rail. And I don't need to know if I need to say this or not, but by the way, guys, if you wonder why there's never a scope rail on an underfolder, just try to fold one up with a scope rail and you'll see what I mean. It's kind of impossible to be mounting an accessory on here and folding your stock. And if you're not going to fold your underfolder stock, why would you even have it, right? Like all the arguments you could make for an underfolder, as soon as you told the soldier you can't ever fold your stock, like even in a pinch, well, at that point they would probably rather have a fixed stock, right? So you're just not going to see, any kind of side mounted, optics or accessory rails on the side here on an underfolder. But yeah, this is another, like I said, factory gun, factory import. These dip down even a little bit cheaper than the DFs. These, about the lowest they got when Century was kind of clearancing them out, because this is how this crap goes, guys. So Century has had problems with Zastava. Okay, let's just say business problems where they're not agreeing to each other's terms. These haven't really been imported in about a year and a half, 2 years. So as soon as Century found out they couldn't get any more, either forever or at least for a while, we'll say at this point. I hope it's not forever. Or if it is forever for Century, hopefully another company starts importing them, right? But once Century found out they couldn't get them anymore, they started dumping these. I think I got this for $429. And no, I'm not talking back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago. No, I'm talking like a year and a half ago. Maybe less, maybe about a year now. $429 rifle, brand new. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Same thing though. Same thing as the underfolder, right? All this still applies. Cold hammer forged, original Zastava Serbian barrel. Made in the same military factory that made all their other ones, right? The famous Zastava plant. Now, if you notice though, with their civilian export guns, they got rid of that whole Zastava roll mark, which kind of sucks. I think it'd be cool if they would have put that on there. And this also has some other civilian features too, like the extra high selector stop there. That's a dead giveaway. You'll also see that super high selector stop on like a lot of Polytech AKs. Even the really coveted rare pre-bam ones, they still put that stupid high selector stop on there. And that's supposed to be to show people, you know, what their way of thinking is they had to show the ATF that, hey, look, you know, this gun's not a select fire gun. But they're so stupid, what they don't realize is all the way down, right, is semi-auto. And they actually blocked it where it shows that it's in the full auto position. So it's so stupid that the ATF's like, oh, you have to like put this extended blocker in here to make sure people aren't confused. But what you did is you made it where they can't put it in semi-auto, if you will. They can only put it in full auto. Now, as we know, if you take a semi-auto gun with all semi-automatic, you know, trigger components, or let's just say with lacking the full auto components, you can still fire semi-auto from the middle position, right? It's just stupid. I don't know if anyone else, I don't know if anybody else notices the irony in that, where this stupid ass compliant selector stop is forcing your selector to go, right, guys? I mean, come on, stupid. This also still carries over the same thing, that old grenade launching feature that they haven't quite gotten rid of yet, with the button, you know. Yeah. What it is these are the same receivers. It's just they're cut differently. They cut some of them for the rear underfolder trunnion. Other ones are cut with that special, you know, proprietary Yugo trunnion. And if you guys have ever messed with the Yugo, you're going to notice there's no tang that sticks out on these. Yugos are all flat in the back. And there's actually just going to be a couple little screws to take off the rubber butt pad. And then you go in the middle of the stock, whether it's a wood or synthetic, and there's a big long bolt. I mean, it's decent. I'm sure it's metric, but it's about, you know, a 5/16 bolt, maybe 9 inches long. And there's one long bolt that goes through the whole center of the stock and goes into a single hole. It's mounted right at the back of the trunnion. So that's another unique thing about the Yugos. The stocks are proprietary. They're only going to work with a Yugo. Now, I know if you're a master fabricator, there's ways to change anything. But let's just say in layman's terms, you cannot flip-flop any kind of AKM stock or even AK47 milled stock, AK74 stock, none of it is going to go over the Yugo, and vice versa. Same thing as the handguards. The handguards are not going to be compatible, and that's mainly due to the size. Okay? The size is totally different. The dimensions are different on a Yugo versus an AKM milled AK47 type, right? So, yeah. Same thing as the other one, the DF. We still got the polished carrier. The bolt itself is polished. Now, I've been wanting to show this on camera for a while, guys. And after I just got done saying I prefer to buy an import, and I do. I still recommend an import every time over a USA-made gun. Here's how I rank them, guys. Import first, kit build, asterisk, kit build only if it's made by a quality builder, or by yourself if you have the skills to do a quality build. And then my last resort would be just a USA-made gun. Okay, with all that said, It's never quite that simple with the AK, is it? Never. So these are a recommended gun. You guys saw Rob Ski's video. Listen, Rob Ski's not an expert or an arbiter. He's just a guy doing his thing. So whatever you take from his videos, he does a lot of testing, guys. And he put 5,000 rounds through one of these NPAPs. So Rob's going to tell you these are a good gun. Not because Rob told me so, but because I know on my own, I'm going to tell you these are a good gun. But check this out. This is a brand new gun. Brand new. Never fired. Tags, okay? See how it almost has... Now, this is not because of the trigger like you guys think. This has the Century Rack 1 trigger, guys. So this is not the Tapco Gatto bolt hold open. This is literally... And this is something I'm hoping I can show you guys, because I can definitely feel it, right? Okay, there you go, right there. Okay? This is a Rack 1 trigger. If you guys are familiar, the Rack 1 trigger does not hold, okay, it does not hold the carrier and bolt back. And it's still being held back. There we go. See? I actually have to give it a little shove. See? There's a real rough spot there. This is a brand new factory gun. Now, Century's the importer. And after they did their 922R, they should have at least test fired these. And if they weren't going to test fire them, they should have at the very, very, very least at least just cycled them by hand and felt this, right? Now, I have a couple of these, not just this one, but I have another one brand new in the box. It's the same thing. So I got my micrometer out just to see. I knew what it was instantly, but I got the micrometer out just to see. And when you build an AK, again, this isn't a building stream. Defer to Zeke on this, if I'm not saying it right. But there's what's referred to as your rails, right? And your rails on your AK, that's where the little groove, the channel, if you will, right? Cutting to the carrier, that's what that rides on. And when you have a receiver, after you're done making it, because no AKs are exactly alike. That's what people don't realize. This isn't the M4. This isn't the AR-15. You don't just put all the parts together, and 99.99% of the time, they've all just go together like Legos. No, the AK takes hand tuning to the bolt, for the way it interacts. It takes hand tuning to the rails. And there's a procedure called trimming your rails. And again, I'm not, like, most of you guys probably know more about it than me. But for anyone that's new to this, it's on a custom basis. You know, you get in there and you trim your rails. A common method I use is just a little file. Just with the fingertips. You're not removing like an inch of material. No, it's real thin, you know, stamped sheet metal there. 1 millimeter, right? Not a big deal. And you just kind of trim and tune and feel it and make sure everything lines up right. Now, they didn't trim the rails properly on this rifle. And I went in with a micrometer. And another one of these that I took brand new out of the box, I think it was actually this DF right here. I measured the rails, measured the other rail. Yeah, these are about, on the one side, it was like 0.7 millimeters off. On the other side, it was about 1.5 millimeters off. I mean, that's 2 millimeters. That's definitely enough where, yeah, under the pressure of a round actually firing, it's going to overcome it. I totally get that. Even if I come all the way to the back and just let go, it does it. But you can feel the gun. You can feel it shudder. I don't know if you guys can hear the hitch, but I can feel it. There's a hitch halfway through. Not a big deal. I'm not throwing this gun under the bus. I'm just letting you guys know that the AK, it's kind of always an evolving thing, right? You always have to kind of get in there and do a little more tuning, it seems like, right? Even if you buy a factory gun. Now, the conclusion of this story is this. I go fire this gun, probably in the first 100 rounds, we're just going to say. Maybe a little more, but we'll say 100 to 200 rounds. It's going to wear itself, okay? It's going to find itself. It's going to find its mating surfaces, and it's probably going to go away. But at the same time, it's actually way better than it is right now than it was originally, because I've been kind of fooling around with it. But just hand cycling it. When I first got it out of the box, it was so tight that it would go to the back, and I'd give it a nudge like I am now, and it wouldn't do anything. I actually had to, you know, wow up on it to get it to go. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Anything can happen, guys. Anything can happen. Heck, my buddy Misha, the Misha Co channel, which if you guys are into the K, you should definitely be watching him too, right? Misha did one about his Polytech Legend not shooting right. Bunch of jams and this and that. So trust me, guys, with the AK, if it can happen, it can happen. Cave Dave's talking about the OPAP. Okay, real quick here. Here's the deal with the OPAP, guys. And somebody asked me earlier, it was a good question. Are there any OPAP kits available? Well, yes and no. So what an OPAP is, right, is it's an M70 B1, which is a fixed stock version of the AB2 that I just showed you. So with an OPAP, what they were is they were a civilian offering that Century offered, you know, to the United States and I think other countries. It was the first gen, if you will. The OPAP come in, and then the NPAP was after that, right? So the OPAP came in, and they were originally built from 100% extra parts kits. Not from necessarily used rifles as much as from just like overrun parts, right? The Century, not Century, the Zastava Serbia had. So the OPAP is not an actual military gun. What it is the very first few were made with parts kits. In Serbia, though, they're still factory guns. They still say made in Serbia. That's fine. But they were built with extra military parts. Then after that, they started to make them with partial military parts. Then they started making it with only a couple military parts. And by the time the last batch of them came out, they were basically down to all civilian, brand new modern production made parts. So when I say civilian, I say that loosely. Still made in a military arsenal, however, made for the civilian market. So the OPAP in and of itself isn't like a real variant, right? So with that said, you're not going to really find OPAP parts kits since it's not a military variant. You can find an M70 B1 though, and that would basically be what I would call an OPAP parts kit. The OPAP, good gun, factory gun, meets all the different standards I've told you guys about. It's basically one of these, okay? However, it has a bulged trunnion, does not have the grenade launching abilities. They got rid of the valve and the ladder sight. Some of them have the spot for the night sights, but not the actual night sight itself. The very first gen, if you will, OPAPs came with provisions for night sights, where this doesn't even have the provision. There's not even the spot for the little flip up thing to even fit in here. The very first OPAPs had the provision for it without actually having it. As time went on, though, they lacked that. Here's one thing that's frustrating about the OPAP, guys. Where the NPAP, they actually did go through the effort of putting the proper XY dimples. There's your full auto, your safety sear, auto battery safety, right? NPAP has it. That makes this more legit, in my opinion. OPAP, though, even though the OPAP by many is considered like more coveted of a rifle, they skip that. The OPAP, if you study your OPAP and look, it's going to be missing that third pinhole. A third pinhole dimple, right? The Y. So just make note of that. Some of them had this Serbian crest in the buttstock. Some of the woodstock OPAPs did. Some didn't. There's speculation that that was put on in Serbia just for marketing purposes for the U.S. Other people speculate Century put it on stateside. In either occurrence, the actual military used M70s did not have that. Did not have that big, huge, bold insignia. I think it looks really cool. I just figured I'd tell you guys, there's a couple rumors how it came on there, but it was added as an OPAP thing, right? Rather than an actual M70 feature. And yeah, Zeke's got one, and you'll see that in some of his older videos. Zeke's been loaning that gun to his FFL friend for a while, and I think he's going to be getting it back soon. But yeah, Zeke can show you guys that. I don't have an actual OPAP, not because I don't like them, just because, guys, there's so many variants of the AK. And as you're seeing tonight, there's so many variants of even just the Yugo AK. It's just impossible to have them all. So it's not that I don't like the OPAP, I just don't happen to have one. Now, is the OPAP a holy grail gun? No, I don't think so. They can be good. Some of them actually had a lot of problems, though. Some OPAPs had mega heat treat problems, right? With the receiver holes not being properly heat treated, brittle. I mean, there's been some OPAP problems, guys. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that like the OPAP is like the good one and the NPAP's the crap one. I think it's the same thing we run into like with the, you know, the Chinese guns. Everyone's like, well, you know, you want the Polytech and the Duranco's the secondary class. It's not true. And if you guys want to see like a about a one-page write-up I did, go over to Full 30. Okay, I'm a member of the forums there. If any of you would like to get into the forums of Full 30, send me a message. I can send you an invite and invite you over to the forums. And I just did a write-up in response to our buddy SwitchPod, who's here in the comments, explaining, and I just scratched the surface, guys, but I went in and started to explain, you know, the whole Polytech versus Norinco thing. So I see a lot of NPAP versus OPAP. The OPAPs weren't imported as long. They're more rare. In a market economy like we're in, of course, they're going to be worth more because of that. So they made a lot more of these. They're not worth as much. They were available till very recently. The OPAP's been kind of out of the picture for about 4 or 5 years now. So with all that said, yeah, it's more rare. It might be more coveted for a collection because of that reason, but I don't think it's fair to say that the OPAP is actually the better, you know what I'm saying, right, than the NPAP. I think they're just different. And I like them both. That's my conclusion on that. But no, the OPAP is not a real military gun. It's actually a made for consumers gun, just like an NPAP. Oh, let's see what we got here going on. Oh, Troll's in the house. What's up, man? Saw you last night too in Zeke's stream. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, what caused the full auto ban? Well, okay, hold on one second. Okay, so here's the thing. I'll in a nutshell, because this could go on for an hour. Full auto ban. 1934, after Al Capone, gangsters, supposedly at that time outgunning the cops, they said, look, we need to not ban, but highly regulate machine guns. And what they did is they put a huge tax on it. $200 in 1934 was thousands and thousands of dollars today. So they put this huge tax on there. They didn't ban them. They just made it where only rich people could get machine guns. Okay. Now, in 1968, they didn't really do anything different to machine guns. By the way, in 1934, they kind of screwed up because you can read some of their notes. They were supposed to put in there, and the tax would go up with inflation. One of their interns forgot to put that in the final bill. It was voted on and passed. It was very controversial to pass it back then. They thought about putting it up for amendments again to add, and the $200 tax will go up to inflation. They chose not to do that because there was a chance that there were going to be a bunch of poison pill amendments put in, right, to where it could have kind of repealed the NFA. So they just left it alone. They were pissed at their heir, but I guess you could say, I hate to say it this way, but luckily, quote unquote, for us, it's a $200 tax. And unless it's amended again, that's perpetually, no inflation. So anyways, that's where machine guns started. 68 came in. The tax stayed the same. They basically said, yep, civilians can still buy, build, make, whatever machine guns, but they have to pay the tax and go through the fingerprints, the Clio, all that stuff, right? Like just the same as a silencer or an SBR, right? Same thing. So 68 came along. It kind of changed it a little bit. In 1968, they said no more imported machine guns. Okay, well, that did actually kind of change things quite a bit. So the availability started to come down then. Fast forward to 1986. There was something called FAPA, and that was called the Firearms Owners Protection Act. And here's the thing. Guys always say the Firearms Owners Protection Act is BS. Not really. The act in and of itself actually did a lot to help firearms owners. One of the big things right now is it says that if you're traveling through the country with a firearm and you're just traveling through an area, you can continue to carry that gun even if it's not allowed there. Now, there's been different court cases that have decided what that means. Some people have said you can't get out of your vehicle. Other people have said you can stop and maybe go to the bathroom. But you certainly couldn't check into a hotel that night. So the moral of the story is, if you're going through an area, right, you can freely travel. You don't have to all of a sudden, like, you know, turn around and say, well, look, this gun's legal in Michigan, but it's not legal in Ohio, so I can't go to any other state. So there was some good things, amongst others. I'm just trying to be real brief about this. This isn't a political talk, guys. So the Firearms Owners Protection Act was made to kind of protect the rights of firearms owners on its face. Well, then there was a Senator Hughes, and he put in the famous Hughes Amendment. And this was a poison pill, meaning they do this a lot in the Congress, right? They basically say, look, we don't like this. We can't vote it down outright, but they'll make deals with each other. They do it all the time, okay? Schumer and McConnell do it right now. They'll say, look, I'll let you get this on the floor and I'll not filibuster, but you need to give my side of the aisle 10 amendments. And McConnell will say, all right, I'll give you 8 amendments. Okay, fine. We won't filibuster, but you got to give us 8 amendments. Well, the Democrats had some amendments that they were allowed to put forth, right, to get this vote, to get this Firearms Owners Protection Act in. And what the other side will do in most cases is back to what I call a poison pill, where they'll say, look, we'll put an amendment in there that'll make the law that's pro-gun so anti-gun they'll never sign it. Instantly, the Republicans are going to say, no, we're going to vote against our own bill now because this poison bill is so bad. That's actually what Mr. Hughes thought was going to happen. And this is documented. And they said, no, Reagan will never sign it. You know, the Republicans are never going to vote for this. Well, that's true until the NRA got involved. The NRA said, look, guys, just pass it. We need this stuff here that's going to help us with these other things. It's all great. Reagan signed it. The NRA told Reagan, sign the bill. And Reagan's like, okay, but, and the NRA said, but we'll fight it in court. We'll beat it in court. It's unconstitutional. It's not legally possible, okay, in the United States of America to really ban machine guns. So just sign it because we want all the other good stuff in there. And Hughes is like, holy crap, they actually voted for this? I took this super like pro-gun bill and literally by my one amendment made it the most anti-gun bill in like, at that time it would have been like 20 years, right? Since 1968. He totally did it just to stop the bill from going through, guys, right? No, the Republicans and President Reagan were stupid enough to vote on and sign the darn thing. And then guess what the NRA did? Nothing. The NRA never sued. The NRA never took it to the Supreme Court. The NRA never did anything on it. Okay? So that's why machine guns are illegal. They're still legal. That's why they're illegal to possess unless it was registered before 86. I want to make sure I say that. Don't think they're not up to the same things right now, because they are. There's a lot of poison pills right now, trust me. Okay. Okay, so Bradstreet's partially right. Yeah, they were trying to ban handguns in 34. That's true, but that was going to be harder to do. So they went for the low-hanging fruit, which is machine guns. Sure, but they didn't ban them, though, remember, in 34. They just put a very expensive tax on them. I think that's what you meant. Yep, same thing with SBRs and shotguns, because that was like kind of a segue to a handgun ban, right? Because they're kind of in between. But again, it wasn't a ban, it was a tax. Yeah, back to the NRA again. Well, yeah, of course, Mateo's right. The kicker, the NRA wanted the ban to go through. I'm sorry, guys. I need Mateo to help state the obvious for me. Obviously, that's what the NRA wanted. They wanted it banned. They knew ahead of time they weren't going to sue. They knew they weren't going to get the Supreme Court to overturn it. They lied to people, though, at that time and said, just pass it, vote on it, sign it, Mr. President. We'll take care of it. We got your back. Nah, it wasn't that the NRA got outgunned by like the U.S. Attorney's Office when they went to sue. No. They literally never sued. That's the point. Just like the NRA is also not suing right now over bump stocks. This whole 86 Hughes Amendment thing is just as irrelevant right now as it was in 86. Does this sound familiar? Mr. President, just take care of it. NRA told President Trump to ban the bump stock. Don't forget that. They also recommended the ATF to ban it. Okay, this isn't really a political talk, though, guys. So I'm just going to take a 5-minute break. There's still 16 people in here, which is awesome. But to keep you around for the break, I have like a couple really cool Yugo variants coming up next. I'm not done yet. And I'll try to squeeze them in. A lot of my previous talk was about talking about like what's a pre-ban, what's a factory gun, what's a kit build. I don't have to talk about that now. So when I come back from my break, I think I can get through these other guns a little quicker. But there's also a couple here that you guys may have never seen before. So if you're into seeing some cool Yugo stuff, stick around, enjoy the chat, and I'll be back in about 5 minutes, guys, okay? So If you have any more questions, if there's anything I missed, hit me up with like that @Glock Shooter 79, all one word, and it'll do it in the orange. And that helps me. I might still miss it, but it does help me. Oh, Francis, yeah, real quick. He did what I told him to. He put it in orange. So he says, I remember when people were complaining about the emblem on the OPAP socks. It's kind of funny in hindsight. Yeah, they were complaining about it because here's the thing. I was kind of complaining about it because I'm like, that's not a factory correct thing. You know, that's not a military thing. But now that emblem's considered collectible in and of itself. And for those of you that were in Zeke's stream last night, which I was, honored to be a guest on, I always like to be on there with Zeke. I told you guys the stuff nobody wants is the stuff that becomes rare later. And this is always the way it goes. So just remember that. If nobody wants it right now, especially if it's an import, if it's something they're kind of testing the market with and it kind of flops, but it's closely related to something else, perfect recipe. Think Polish Archer, for example. Polish Archer, OPAP with that stupid logo on it, yeah. Those fall in the same category. And look what an Archer costs now. So, all right, guys. I'll be back with you in a few minutes. A couple more cool variants to come. RPKs coming up next, basically. All right. I'll see you guys in a second. All right, guys. You get stuck looking at me again. Sorry about that, but I'm back. Let's see here. Uh-oh. Zeke Shoots is back again. What do you guys think about that Sega barrel pen? Like, whoa, right? Like, whoa. You guys know what I mean? That was crazy. I wanted to thank Mateo and FNH for moderating the chat. Looks like everyone's been real good in here tonight, which I'm you guys are all good. We had a bad troll last time. And not troll 22001. He's one of us, but this other guy was trolling in here pretty good. So yeah, thanks FNH and Mateo for being good contributors to the chat and whatnot. Oh yeah, Zeke unbolted his voice. He hit the barrel pin. I mean, it was literally like, if you guys saw the video, you know what I'm talking about. It was like, whoa, and the lens was all like foggy and hazy, and it was just like, whoa, guys, what's going on? And other YouTubers, I'm not going to mention names because this isn't a political stream, but people made note of it. Okay, let's just put it this way: that whole Sega barrel pin's been brought up in in other channels. Okay. Okay, Warsaw mentioned the Triangle 66. And you know what, guys? I realized something just a minute ago. This Yugo thing's complicated. And I'm really trying to, again, not teach, because I don't think I really know enough to be a teacher, but I'm trying to just share with you guys, right, on these Yugos. I'm trying to do a good job so that you guys can go back and watch this later, maybe as a reference. If you're thinking about, you know, getting into the Yugo and you're like, well, what kind do I want? What's the differences? Maybe you guys can go back to this as a reference. I'm trying to do a good job, but I almost missed the one that started it all. So this Triangle 66 here, let me change my camera a little bit. There we go. I'm not going to talk about this gun very long, but I have to mention it because I've talked about this gun quite a bit in a couple other streams. But this is one that, besides my stream, you're not really going to find very often on YouTube, to be honest with you. This is kind of a strange duck here. This is what started it all for Yugoslavia. This is the very beginning of the Yugo AK production. This is what's called, mainly in the United States, an M64. Now, that's not exactly true. M64s were actually the prototypes, right, of the original Zastava Yugoslavia AKs, and most of the prototypes would have been like destroyed or are still overseas. So we don't really have those, but this is the so-called M64, and I'm going to use that name because that's what you'll reference it, right? Like if you want to buy an M64 kit from Numerich, it's going to be referred to as an M64 kit. So these are called the M64, but what this technically is an M70. Specifically, with this having the folding stock, this exact one is an M70 A. A is for folding stock. Now you're going to notice a lot of the same features on this rifle as the M70 AB2s, NPAPs. Well, not really the NPAP as much, because again, that's kind of a neutered civilian one. But this has the same grenade launcher setup. Basically functions and looks almost exactly the same as the stamped variety. We're still going to have the retained recoil assembly with the little push button, right? Again, rifle grenades. It's all about the rifle grenades. Now, this would have also had a spigot that could be put on. This is a muzzle nut. If you guys are familiar with AK47s, as we call them, the milled varieties of the AK, the muzzle nut was the thing. All of your older AKs always had a muzzle nut. It wasn't until later that the slant brake, otherwise known as sugar scoop type device, started being used. So you're going to find these on a lot of older style AKs. So this is the correct muzzle device for this. When it wasn't firing grenades, would be simply a muzzle nut, meaning there is no muzzle device. This is just here to protect your threads and to protect the crown of the barrel. Now this is made off of what? This is a little more interesting how this rifle came to be here. So if you look at here, you can see this has the proper automatic selector, semi, full, safe. You notice it's a milled receiver, lightning cut. Now, this came into the country as a kit, right? Because as I explained earlier, due to several laws that have been passed, executive actions, amendments, etc., this couldn't come into the U.S. as a machine gun. So this came up, cut up. Now, humor me, this is a stamped kit, right? But still cut up similar to this. Front section, middle section missing, rear section. Now, with this being a milled receiver, there's another technique used, and it's called a re-weld, where basically you have your front receiver section, which if you look at this, this retains that roll mark on the milled. Instead of it being on the rear sight base, it's on the actual receiver itself. You can still see that same CZ, Krivina Zastava. Okay, Zastava, Krajugovic, Yugoslavia. Okay. This was part of the original section of the gun. Now you can see where it kind of fades here. That's one of the lines where it was welded. And another spot where it was welded was right along here, just in front of that rear underfolding trunnion. Now this was re-welded by a guy named Tim at Two Rivers Arms. You guys have probably heard of Two Rivers. They're a pretty highly acclaimed and famous AK building shop. So this, by legal definition, according to the ATF, this has an American receiver, right? Because what happened is once you cut it up and what's called demill it, it no longer becomes a gun. It's a paperweight. It came into the country as a paperweight. And then since it was finished here in the United States for ATF standards, legal reasons, it's a U.S. receiver, but it's really not a U.S. receiver. That's what's so cool about these re-welds. This is all original. These serial numbers in the lightning cut, all original stuff, guys. So 3/4 or more like 80% of this milled receiver is the exact same machine gun receiver that was used in Yugoslavia. Now, back to the whole barrel band thing, original barrel kits, this is one of those. So this is what was called an original barrel kit. So when it came into the country, at that point in time, the laws were a little better than they are now, unfortunately. And they just had to cut a little bit out of the middle, right? And at that time, they didn't even have to throw away the middle section. You were allowed to keep it. It was just in 3 different pieces. And instead of being torch cut back then, I think I misspoke a minute ago. Years ago, you weren't required to cut with a nasty torch earlier. Like I showed you earlier. See all that slag? That's going to make it hard to re-weld, right? You got to clean all that up, reprofile. No, back in the day, they were able to cut just 2 nice, neat cuts with a bandsaw. So when this kit originally came into the country, it was still really nice. It was just a couple precision welds. And don't get me wrong, even with the welding, there's a lot of fit and finish that had to be done by Tim there. But these came in a lot nicer than what we're allowed to buy today. Quote, allowed to buy today, right? The original barrel was still intact. All these barrel components, right? Rear sight base, gas block / grenade launching ladder sight assembly, front sight base, all still attached. So this has the original machine gun barrel. Still plenty of life left on this. I don't have any fancy gauges for the barrel, but I do the old-fashioned bullet test, and there's still a decent amount of the bullet that's exposed. So yeah, this is one of those good old day kits. Guys like us that have been doing it for a while, this is what we used to consider a parts kit. Well, now they're kind of like, you know, neutered parts kits. But yeah, this is the very first version. One other quick note, whereas our current production / I should say not really current, but from the early 70s on, if you look at the Zastava pistol grip, I'll show you this. This is a good example. Look at this pistol grip. It's a piece of plastic, right, with grip ribs in it, all the way up to the top. Can you see that, how it's solid plastic all the way where it meets the receiver? The very early Zastava Yugo guns actually had a metal ferrule on the top. So this is a correct pistol grip. Makes this gun a little bit more unique and, in my opinion, more collectible because it has the metal ferrule. Not a big detail, but it's important if you want a rather rare gun like this to be correct. So yeah, same thing as the other one I showed you earlier, the M70 AB2, underfolding stock. The AB2 would have been inspired off of this, obviously, because this was first. And one more thing. Oh, wait, before I forget, this also has the flip up tritium sights. Because keep in mind, guys, even though this is first generation, if you will, this is what started it all, we're not talking like 50 years difference. No, we're talking like in the 60s, they started prototyping these. By 1970, they started making it. Made very few of these, okay? And then just a couple years later, they were already making the stamped guns. So we're not talking a spread like, you know, the Soviet Union, let's just say, where they made these for so much longer, where there's a huge spread of decades in between. Now, these were all made in a fairly short period of time. It's just, you know, so in other words, a lot of these features carry over. Flip up tritium front sight, same thing. But one other quick thing you'll note on these, since this is a milled gun, this is common for all milled guns. We'll notice on the stamped, I'll go back to this NPAP, our gas relief ports, right? On the front of the gas tube. See, they're on the gas block. See that? Little holes in the gas block. That's to allow excess gases to vent so that you're not overgassing the gun. So there's not too much rearward pressure, right? On your carry assembly, recoil, spring, and ultimately rear trunnion. Now on a milled, you're going to notice there's no relief ports in the actual sight block, but the relief ports are in the gas tube itself. So there's your relief ports. So that's a typical milled feature. What makes this a little different is if you look at the side of the receiver here, this looks pretty normal compared to, like, let's say a Type 3. Okay? But it's not quite a Type 3, because when you come over to the other side, you'll notice, see the profile of this milled receiver here? For those of you that are familiar with a quote-unquote Type 3, we call them the AK47, but it's actually more properly called an AK Type 3. This is a little different. This almost starts to look more like a Type 2 up front, if you look at the actual shape and the profiling of the receiver. So these are like kind of their version of a Type 3, but not. It's kind of half Type 3, half Type 2, with a twist of Yugoslavia mixed in. And that's what I said to start off the stream. When it comes to your Yugo variants, they're not necessarily ever apples to apples comparisons. Like, you can kind of sort of group them in with an AKM or AK47 counterpart, but not really. Let's see here. Sling swivels, you're actually going to see them up here on the gas block, okay, which is in the same part as the NPAP. That's kind of interesting, because you'll note on your other AK variants, let me see what I have here. If I have something from another country sitting around here. Anyways, I don't want to bore you guys and bring out other countries' guns. This is already going to go long. But anyways, you'll notice this is a little bit different setup, right? Typical with an underfolder. You've got the sling swivel incorporated with the button, which does make it kind of cumbersome. You've got to stack a piece of cloth there. It does kind of make it a little hard to get to. Probably about the best they could do, but at the same time, not really the best design, if you think about it. This is always getting in the way. But yeah, this is an original sling, an original leather pouch for your oil bottle. And this is the way this is designed to work. See, it's got the belt loop style straps in the back, just to ride on your sling, so you've always got your lubricating oil with you out in the battlefield. And the newer ones were plastic, but if you look at these older, this is like a correct for era oil bottle. This is an actual brass oil bottle. So you can see it's got your brass patina to it. Even a little bit green coming in, which I think is cool. I'm not going to clean it off. I'll let it turn green. I think that'd be pretty cool, right? So yeah, your oil bottle looks really similar, if not exactly the same as the SKS. The Yugo SKSs, these are a carryover from those. So, because remember, the Yugo SKS, like I showed you guys earlier, M59. Okay, so started on 59. Well, then they had that major revision, right, with the grenade launching M59/66. So that's basically the model of 1959 as revised in 1966. We see other countries that do that too, right? Like the Czech VZ52. Then there's a VZ52/57. VZ24 Mauser. Then there's the VZ/47. So that's what that means. It's the model of 1959 rifle with a major overhaul in 1966. Well, that was 1966. These started prototyping model of 1964. So there's some overlap. The very early AK production was around the time that they were doing the second revision of their SKS. Now, one more quick thing on this gun. I'm trying to be quick, but this gun's just so interesting. I showed you guys earlier how, you know, Yugoslavia generally issued a magazine with a bolt hole open follower, right? With that squared off back. None of the internals were different in the gun, just simply the magazine follower. And as you saw earlier, as soon as I release the mag, the bolt just comes forward. That's not the way they had originally intended it to be. So with an M64, last round's fired, it's going to hold open, right? Well, it doesn't look any different yet than the other M70s, right? Until we go to remove the magazine in this case, and the bolt still stays to the rear. Okay? And this is not because of the rails being out of spec or anything. This is the way this gun was designed from the ground up. And what makes this example here so cool is that they were actually able to reincorporate the bolt hold open device. 90% of these rewelds, and there's not many M64 rewelds out there, but of the ones I've seen, none of them really have a working bolt hold open device. From what I understand, Two Rivers had to get a hold of Turbo, as he's known online, Turbo This, Matt Yemens, he owns My Guns Northwest, and had him actually make them remake part of the bolt hold open device that was cut during the demilling process. So this has a true bolt hold open device. That's part of it right there, if you were wondering why that looked weird earlier. And there's simply like a leaf spring that puts tension back, and right now it's holding. There's actually a spring-loaded little metal bar, if you will, holding the bottom of the bolt to keep the whole assembly in the rear. And what does that is it's nothing to do with the follower itself. There's a notch cut in here. So basically, as you're feeding your rounds, okay, it's not interfering with the bolt hold open device. As soon as this comes up, though, this follower is gonna grab and it's gonna push up on this little bolt hold open device that's held in the pushed up position, blocking the bolt until it's relieved. So there's a spring holding tension on it. So the second I pull the charging handle back on my carrier, right, it's going to relieve the tension. Maybe you'll be able to hear it click. There's a little click, right? Now it can travel freely. So this literally has an actual built-in bolt hold open device. This is factory correct. I'm lucky to have this gun because meticulous care was taken to recreate these parts that were damaged. Now, some of these are original parts, and it's all original design. So don't think that this was like created. What I meant is where they had to torch cut, or not torch cut, but saw cut this receiver right here. It kind of sawed through part of it. So it was had to be recreated again, right, for all these internals to work. So this is kind of like what you call like builders that are at the top of their game that can really, really get into the nuances. And this is interesting here too. We talked about, remember earlier how I showed you guys on the NPAP? I said, look, it's got the X and Y axis dimples. Well, on an AKM, or even, you know, an RPK variant with a stamped sheet metal receiver, they put the dimple in there. Now, the dimple is not just a guide like people think it is to know where you're supposed to drill your hole. No, with sheet metal, you make it stronger, just like this magazine, by dimpling it. When you dimple, that adds rigidity, right? So you can take a thin piece of sheet metal that really wouldn't be strong enough, but as soon as you dimple it, it brings it up to the task and lets it act bigger than what it is, right? Same thing as the dust cover I was talking about earlier. If you have a solid non-ribbed dust cover, okay, non-dimpled, non-ribbed, dimpled and ribbed, same thing, right? If you have a non-ribbed dust cover, it has to be like a lot thicker, right, to withstand the the forces and not get dinged if you dropped it or whatever. Now, as soon as you add dimpling or ribs to it, it makes it stronger. Okay? That's what your X's and Y's are, by the way. It's a spot where there's going to be extra stress on the rifle, and they simply dimple it to make that area a little bit stronger on the sheet metal receiver. So, the NPAP has all three. It's more representative of a military full auto. The OPAP, which I don't know why, shame on them, they left the Y out, which is annoying. Now this, with it being a milled receiver, does not need X's and Y's to make it stronger, because this is a substantially thicker piece of steel. But you can see what they did, because this is still the original gun parts, right? What's legal to make this not a machine gun, because I don't know if you guys know this, but even having the third hole, even if the third hole is there, even if you're not using it, it still constitutes a machine gun in the eyes of the ATF, okay? That's why we can't put third pin holes in ours and just have like a little like dummy pin in there just to make it look real. You can't do it. You can totally not install the auto sear. That's fine. The safety sear, you don't have to install that. It's still a machine gun if it has a third pinhole. So if you look carefully here, you can see where they re-welded over. And on the inside, there's a little plate that's welded to the inside, and then they weld it all the way through the center. And by completely welding it, now it no longer has a third pinhole. So this gun is not considered to be a constructive machine gun by the ATF standards. And you can see it here. Here they blended it in a little better, but you can still see where the hole used to be. And you can see the heat still showing through where they welded the plug. So, yep, this has the proper full auto selector markings as original from Yugoslavia. Yeah. And again, the Zastava markings are not on the rear sight base. That wasn't what they did for the milled. It's actually right here on the receiver. Now, this is a so-called M64, right? Yugoslavia also made other milled variants, M70s, and those were a lot closer to a regular Type 3 receiver. I don't have one of those with me here today. This is going to go on way too long already, guys. I'm sorry to keep you. Hey, if I'm keeping you up too late, just go to bed and watch the rest tomorrow. You know, I just really am trying to be a little thorough on this. But yeah, you'll notice other little things too, like on the milled, the mag catch. This is not a stamped and bent assembly. I don't know if my camera's gonna be able to catch it. This is a solid milled piece of steel. And rather than being a thin piece of sheet metal that's kind of like bent on the ends, like how they curl and bend it in on an AKM, this is just a solid lug of steel. Okay? So you're going to find a lot more machined solid steel components on this gun. Again, not a lightweight gun, but to be honest with you, this isn't really any heavier than the stamped bulge trunnion version. Maybe a little heavier, but not as much heavier as you'd think. So yeah, night sights, grenade launching capabilities, grenade launching provisions and reinforcements in the back, underfold or stock. What really makes this unique is it has more of a Type 2 style receiver, and it has the factory bolt hold open device. So yeah. You'll see bolt open device on some of your PSLs. Other than that, not really seeing on the AK variant. Oh, by the way, I can only use these mags in this gun. I could modify a regular mag if I had to, but without this notch, this metal here is gonna, you know, hit up against that bolt hole open device, and it's gonna damage something, either the mag or the BHO in here. So yeah, you have to use these mags on an M64. However, the cool thing is I can take this mag right out of this gun and put it into any AKM, and it'll still function just fine, because your other AKMs don't care if this notch is missing or not. So there you go. It's a proprietary mag. This gun requires this as a proprietary mag, but the mag itself is modular with all your other AK variants. So yeah, this is a pretty cool one. I kind of like this gun. So-called M64, technically speaking, the original first generation M70 A. I really screwed up, guys, to be honest with you. I should have talked about this gun immediately after the SKS. I apologize for that, but so I kind of just like skipped ahead and then had to backtrack back into this gun. All right, here's another one. This next one I'm going to talk about, I don't know if it's like super valuable necessarily, but I know they're uncommon, okay? This is a gun that came into the country, excuse me, just a few years ago, and they only brought them in for a little while, okay? And this is a Zastava M77. It's a big one. I have to get back quite a ways before you can see it. So here we have a Yugo Zastava Serbia, same thing. This is like your NPAPs as far as this is, again, a factory-built gun. This gun was built from the ground up in Zastava, former Yugoslavia, now Serbia. Okay. And this one actually came into the country, or came retail, I'm sorry, through Century, but it actually came in as a sporter. This gun, when I bought it, had black polymer front handguards that looked exactly like the ones that were on my fixed stock NPAP. It came with a thumb hole sporting stock, right? Also polymer. It came with no muzzle device, threaded barrel, however, a tack welded muzzle nut, which in some instances they allow them to simply tack weld a muzzle nut in place for it not to be considered a threaded barrel, right? So what I did to kind of like deband this gun is I broke the tack weld, threaded on. This isn't the exact proper muzzle device, but it's pretty close, okay? I'm still working on finding an original one because the M77 is not just a for consumer gun. This is actually a real military variant. And these are hard to find, but I found the closest replica I could. This is supposed to be just a touch longer. But this was around the time in the 90s where Zastava decided to go away from like the traditional sugar scoop slant brake type. And they started to kind of go more towards the US birdcage type. So it is proper for this gun to have more of a birdcage type flash hider on it, right? So I bought a set of brand new, unissued. This is original factory Serbian, you know, Zastava furniture, hardwood handguards, real handguards, not Century. You'll notice I'm not quite done with this gun, guys. I just wanted to show it on the video, okay? Even though I'm going to show you, I still have to do a little more filing of the wood here. This is brand new, unissued, never fitted wood. See how my retainer is not quite going back enough? I can take care of that in a few minutes. I just wanted to show you guys the gun rather than be too nitpicky. Here's the other thing with this gun that I'm going to have to do. And I wish I had a little better fabricating skills because it seems like something I could make myself. But this had the thumb hole stock on it, right? And as part of the sporter provision, if you guys have ever had a Mac 90, or if you know anything about the Mac 90, I got to bring this up as an analogy. There was two types of rear trunnions. There was what they called the square back or straight back. And those are great because you can literally, same tank, you can just swap the butthole stock out with a regular pistol grip and then put in a regular AKM, Chinese, I should say, rather, stock. Now, the Chinese have a thicker receiver, so if you want to fit an AKM into a Chinese, you can. You just have to sand and file on it. But anyways, I digress. Some of them have what's called a slant back, and that makes it a little harder. Well, unfortunately, and this is all just due to bureaucracy, executive orders, gun control, blah, 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 right? Stuff that makes us sick. To make this gun qualify as a sporter, they had to bring it in as a slant back. So even though it's still the same exact connection point with that long bolt, like I was talking about earlier, okay, there's two little screws here to take off the rubber recoil pad. Then right about in the middle here, there's going to be one long bolt that goes through. So that's all correct. This factory stock fits just fine, but I've got a slant back, guys. Not the full Chinese slant back, but this is like a 1/2 to 3/4 slant back. It's still not going to look perfect, but what I'd like to do is get a section of material, right, that's the same thickness as this receiver, right? So like a 1.5 millimeter thickness. And Jens Boy did a video on one of these, by the way. Jens Boy 2001. And he's a lot handier, okay? He's like a machinist by trade, I think. He was able to actually make himself a repair section that goes in here, and he carefully welded it and grinded it and re-blued it. Good video, by the way, if you're interested in these, to make it look 100% legit. So I've got to find someone that can do that for me. But yeah, it did not come with a pistol grip into the country. This is a brand new, unissued Zastava Serbia pistol grip. This is like the, I say newer style, but let's just say this is like 99.9% of them, all plastic, which would be correct for this gun. This is the Zastava M77. That's a later offering. Now this AK is chambered in what we call 308 or 762 by 51, or just simply 762 NATO. So this is a 308 AK. Feeds from a 20-round box magazine that's very similar, actually, to an M14/M1A mag. In fact, this gun ships with just a couple little small sporter mags, right? Because it was brought in under the sporting purposes as a sporting rifle. It came with two small little mags, 10 rounds, I believe. And Jin's boy, back to him again, had some videos out a few years back how you could actually take an M14 mag and modify it to work in this gun. It's really, 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 this is super close to being an M14 mag. Now, there's a company, if you guys have heard of them, called CS Specs. And when these guns first came into the country, they thought these were going to be a big thing. Like the Vepr 308, the Saga 308, and CS Specs got right on board as soon as these came in the country and started prototyping and eventually making these M77 mags. So this is an actual CS Specs mag that was actually purpose-built from the ground up for this gun, okay? So this is an actual M77 mag made in the USA, which if you care about 922R, that's a plus. Here's 3 US parts, right? The magazine's body is one part, its follower is another part, and how stupid is this? Its floor plate is considered a part, right? Like, they really need to worry about that, but they do. So yeah, this has a real deal CS Specs M77 mag. I just think it looks a lot cooler with a proper 20-round mag than those little sporter mags that they came with. But yeah, this is just me trying to make it look a little more faithful to how its original military counterpart looked. It also has an optics or accessory rail on the side. And when I say accessory rail, these are not always used for optics, guys. There's other accessories they put on here. Night vision, for example. Okay. So yeah, here's your optics accessory rail. Very similar to the NPAP, the NPAP fixed stock. This is a Sentry import. On this gun, Sentry didn't even get their mitts on it at all. This gun didn't have to follow quote-unquote 922R because since it was brought in a neutered state, it lacked so many features. It basically had no features at all that they were allowed to have an open double-stack magwell. This gun came into the country with a double-stack magwell, but since all the other features were missing on it, like the tack-welded muzzle device, which meant for legal reasons, no threaded muzzle. It had no pistol grip originally, okay? It also had no separated buttstock. You guys know what I mean by thumb hole stock. It's all one piece, right? Which is actually comfortable. I shot this gun with the original thumb hole stock, and it was actually quite comfortable, but I just didn't like the look of it, and I needed to make it look a little more historically accurate. Now this gun, if you notice, it was never intended to fire rifle grenades. I mean, never intended to. They never even thought about it. So this doesn't have the grenade apparatus and the gas shutoff and the ladder sight, not because they cheaped out or anything, just because this variant isn't supposed to have it, right? It also has, obviously, the bulged front trunnion, okay? So this is still on what we would call the RPK platform, right? This also has an adjustable gas block, right? And it has 3 gas settings. Same thing. This is, again, back to what I was referring to earlier with those terminologies. This is what I call a factory gun. This is an import. Whole gun, again, made in Zastava, Serbia, in their military arsenal factory. So this has a cold hammer forged barrel. I mean, this is real deal military parts, guys. It even has a little military proof mark. I don't know if you can see it here. Yeah, there we go. Military proofed. If you take off the lower handguard, which I'm not going to do right now because, again, it's not even fitted all the way. I kind of had to really just kind of get it on there. And as you can see, say the retainer, it's loose. It's not even in the... You know what I'm saying, right, guys? Forgive me. I just wanted to show you the variant. It's not quite done yet. But yeah, Zastava M77. Any of you other guys seen one of these, really? I really can't find much on it about YouTube. Jen's Boy, again. Jen's Boy talked about it quite a bit about 5 years ago. And other than that, this gun kind of got forgotten. So I wanted to include that in the show tonight. I think it's kind of neat. 308 Yugo. Okay, let's see what we've got here, guys. Oh, Albert's here now. What's up, Albert? Thanks, man. I'm glad you like it. SwitchPod's still here. By the way, SwitchPod, I told you I was going to talk about the Yugo. I know you're really into it. And I'm sure you're not the only one. So hopefully, I'm providing you some more knowledge than you had before. And again, fire away if I'm not covering something, guys. I'm really trying. I've still got a couple more. If you guys are getting tired, I'm sorry. There's a lot here. Someone said Jen's Boy was a medic. Okay, maybe he was. I was under the impression he was a machinist type guy. Either way, he's a talented machinist, even if it's just in his spare time. So I need to figure out how to do this, guys. Like if me and SwitchPod were neighbors, I'm sure he could help me with this. Let's just say, but you know, I'm a landscaper and IT. I do computer, services and IT work. I fool around with building and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not. This is. You guys know what I'm saying, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys wouldn't be quite sure what to do, but you kind of know what to do. But yeah, I need something for the back of this to make it right. So, and unfortunately, this is the receiver, right? This is the firearm. So I can't just like send this to somebody to work on unless it's through their FFL and all that. We'll figure it out. Maybe someone on here, maybe if we have a meetup someday, we can meet up and someone can help me do this legally. It's just hard for me to I can't mail this to their house, So yeah, Zastava M77, guys, 308. All right, let me go grab another one. Okay. Yes, Warsaw's right. They do make those half-cut blocks for the stock and the receiver. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. They have them for they have them available, and they look okay. I think it's going to look a lot better than how it does now. It's still not going to look quite like what Jen's Boy did, where he was able to get the same exact thickness metal, weld it carefully, grind out as well, real smooth, and blew it. He made his look literally legit. But yes, Warsaw, thanks for reminding me of that. That's a good idea. That's going to be the second best thing, and that's probably what I'm going to have to roll with for a little while here until I can figure something else out. Yeah, Mateo brings up a good point. You could modify the wood. Yeah, let me look at that a little closer. I think there might be, I might not be able to do that just due to the way the Yugo stock shape totally different. So I'm not sure. Needs a scope, Warsaw says. Yeah. Let's see here. Cave Dave left, it looks like. Good to see you here today. I like Cave Dave. Okay, so Albert's been here quite a while, just listening and learning. Yeah, there's always people in an AK stream lurking, isn't there, guys? Which is cool. I love it. Let's see here. I'm just kind of reading the chat real quick. Okay, Zeke just gave me a tip. Thanks, Zeke. I'll check out AK Builder, see if they have that flash hider I want. The one that's on there right now is close, but you know, if you're like me, close isn't really good enough. But I wasn't embarrassed to show you guys close. I just wanted you to see the M77, right? One of those weird little things too, like a flash in the pan. They came in really fast. They never came back. Don't know why. Probably some kind of BS, because I believe if they started importing them again, people buy them, right? A 308 AK. A lot of 308 fans in this country. And I think I spent like $500 for that thing, maybe 550. I know it wasn't 600. Let's put it that way. They were really, really affordable, like 5 years ago. Why won't they bring them back? I don't know why. Yeah, like Bradford said, some Mac 90s imported in the country have the third pinhole. Those are actually machine guns. And here's what sucks, guys. If it has the third pinhole, okay, and you assemble it into a rifle with the third pinhole, it immediately becomes a contraband machine gun. Unless you have a special, unless you pay what's called a special occupational tax. If you've heard of somebody being an SOT, if you're an SOT and you have a FFL, okay, where you can actually produce modern machine guns, well, then you could. But let's just say for civilians, if you get one of those Mac 90s with a third pinhole, you're not even allowed to weld it shut or put a plug in it. At that point, it's too late. It's contraband. The reason why it was fine with this M64 is when it was still in parts kit form. So before it was built back into a gun again, he welded the holes then. So at that point, when he welded the sections together and formed the legal firearm, which is the receiver, it didn't have any holes anymore. So therefore, legally by U.S. law, this gun never had a third pinhole. The parts kit, otherwise a paperweight, did have a third pinhole, but not the gun. Now, once you finish building the gun, like some of those PSLs and Mac 90s, I don't know about the PSL. I'm going to assume you're right, but I do know for a fact the Mac 90s, some of those were coming in with third pinholes because China overlooked it. It was actually too late at that point for the owner of the gun to hurry up and weld it shut. It didn't matter. It had to be destroyed. Turned in and destroyed, just similar to the bump stock, right? Okay, let's see here. And I'll be going back and reading these later, guys, too. So if I miss something, you know, it's not because I wanted to. It's just because there's a lot of content here and a lot of comments. So anyways, real quick. I've showed this gun before, too, so I won't talk about it too long. Okay? This is what you call an M85. So this is when Yugoslavia decided to go to the 5.56, right? So this is a 5.56 AK. Kind of a Yugo version of a Krinkhoff, if you will. Underfolding rear stock. At this point in time, they've totally abandoned this. They're not doing the whole grenade launching reinforcement in the back anymore. There's obviously no provisions up front for a grenade launcher. The sight is simply spot welded to the top of the dust cover. It has a hinged type dust cover that's retained by a rivet, right? Which is a pretty cool feature, right? I always liked these kind. The gun comes with a short barrel that would end about right here, okay? Now, since this has a functional stock, this can't be considered a pistol, right? So what prevents this from being an SBR is that it has a very extended booster. And if you look at the different tones, you can see what they did here. The booster, there's where the threads are. See where this is different color? So basically take out this whole middle section right here, bring it in. That's how the gun's supposed to look. Now, this is still pretty cool because right now, without a tax stamp on this gun, and this gun does not have a tax stamp, this is just a regular Title I firearm, not regulated by the National Firearms Act. This is just a rifle. Because, although it has the detent, okay, which is still functional, I would note, okay, I can't remove this because this is blind pinned and welded in place. With this being welded, the ATF has said this is no longer a removable device So this gets to be counted towards the legal length of the barrel. So now the barrel is 16 inches or longer. In this case, just a little bit longer. And yeah, this is just a regular rifle by legal standards. But other than that, literally, I'm one pen and weld away, and of course, a stupid, in my opinion, unconstitutional tax stamp away from having a real deal M85. This is a kit build that was built in the United States, okay, out of what we call a virgin parts kit, meaning the parts kit was made in Zastava, Yugoslavia. Okay, so that's real deal military parts. However, it never got to the point of being assembled into a full rifle. So this is not a case of, see how there's no markings on anything? This is not a case of like that Sentry I showed you earlier, where Sentry ground off the markings, which sucks. I hate that they do that. This gun simply never got to the stage of being assembled into a full rifle. So it didn't have its serial numbers, because they would wait till they assembled the whole gun first so they could give it matching serial numbers, right? So this is not a scrubbed parts kit. This is also not a USA made parts. This is real deal Zastava, Serbia parts, just never actually made their way to an assembled rifle, right? And this one was put together by Velocity Firearms in Duluth, Minnesota. But yeah, M85. It takes a magazine that's not quite proprietary. This magazine also can be used in the Yugo M90, Yugo M95. Okay. So they also made, in other words, rifle versions of these with full-length barrels, thick stocks, and underfolder stocks that shot 5.56. The M85 was like their crank-off, if you will. They're shortened down, folding 5.56. They make an M95A, which I don't have yet, but I'm really close. And if I can get one, which I have one lined up in my crosshairs, I'll do a special video on that. They made an M95A, which the A version also had an underfolding stock, but it had a full 16-inch factory barrel. So yeah, I don't know what else I missed on this, but I've talked about this gun a little bit in the past, guys. So this has like a flip-up style sight in the back, where instead of having the leaf that you use to graduate, it's just got a quick flip-up, right? So I'm trying to remember what the stock settings are for this. 200 meter, I think, and maybe 300, 400. So you've got 200 meter, and then with a quick flip, 400 meter. And with the front, you can either do the post or a flip up white dot sight, which this is just a white dot. This is actually not a tritium night sight like the other ones I was showing you earlier. So yeah, 5.56. This is not a US caliber conversion. This is the proper caliber for Yugoslavia. The other thing I would note that's cool about this is this features cold hammer forged and now also a chrome lined factory barrel too. That's what's pretty cool about this. They were able to bring the barrels in this case without cutting them, because they fell underneath pistols. And if you guys don't know, pistols don't qualify as 922R. Pistols aren't subject to the barrel ban. So it was brought into a pistol, converted into a rifle by putting the stock and the device to make this just a regular Title I firearm. And yeah, this does feature an original barrel, which makes it really cool. And where they never did it on the 7.62x39, Yugoslavia absolutely chrome lined their 5.56 barrels. So that's the story on that. Okay, here's another short one. So not only did Yugoslavia have a crank off, if you will, in 5.56, but they have one in 7.62x39. And that's the M92. Now, as we said earlier, you kind of get to choose unless you want to get a tax stamp, right? You can either have it as a pistol, or you can have a functioning stock and an extended muzzle device. So on this one, this is the M92 7.62x39. This has the original. Now that it's 7.62x39, we're back to the cold hammer forged non-chrome lined barrel. It has a muzzle thread protector that's welded on. This can be easily cut stateside here. It's totally legal. For import reasons, they had to put the muzzle nut. But now that it's here, I can put a booster on it. But this is in the short barrel configuration, and I opted for a pistol brace on this one, just to make it a little more ergonomic. So, but this is still just legally a pistol. So this is also does not require a tax stamp. A lot of the features are the same as the M85. It has the quick flip up, the 200 and 400 meter rear sight. It also has the little flip up dot that'll cover the front sight post. Okay. Now you'll notice one thing that's different all of a sudden, which is kind of weird, right? So you've got 5.56, lighter recoiling round, okay, a 7.62 by 39, and it has the bulge front trunnion. That M95 I was talking about, which is the 16-inch barrel version, also bulge front trunnion. M92 though, here, non-bulge front trunnion. So, and this is the same thing as the other ones I was talking about before. This is a factory firearm. This is made, this is an import, right? Made in the Zastava factory in Serbia. Now, with this being a pistol, it doesn't have to meet 922R. So in this case, every single last part on here, except for the brace, which the brace doesn't count as a part, right? That doesn't count for 922R. Every part on this, from front to back, top to bottom, is all Serbian. And again, there's no point system. When George Bush did all that, he only did it to rifles, not to pistols. So this can have all foreign parts, which makes it pretty cool. If I were to cut this trunnion, which can be done, because factory, these were underfolders, right, in Yugoslavia. I could retrofit an underfolder into here, make it a short-barreled rifle, and then I would have to follow 922R because it would become a rifle. But, yeah. This is basically the 7.62 by 39 version, lacking the underfolding stock because it's able to retain its short barrel, right? The compromises we have to go through, unfortunately, due to not only laws, but old executive actions. So, yeah, I don't really like the look of this so much, guys. But let's face it, anyone that shot an AK pistol out here, you know, just having a little something to stabilize it, right? Stabilizing it here against your cheek, it just makes it a lot more enjoyable to shoot. So what I could do, Zeke brings up a good point. The other thing I could do is I could get one of those long boosters or some type of long muzzle device, pin and weld it to make it overall length, install the underfolding stock, right? And then I'd be back to an exact clone of that M85. This one, I'm just kind of letting it ride like it is. I think what I'm going to do soon is upgrade this to more of like a modern folding brace. This is the first pistol I ever braced, so this has like the old school first gen. It's kind of clunky, kind of ugly, but comfortable. But I think I'm going to kind of just upgrade this with a little folding brace, similar to, let me throw this back under here. I don't know if you guys have any questions, let me know, but I think you guys get the point on this one, right? I think I'm going to put a brace similar to what's on my little 9mm Romanian here, right? So I think that's exactly what's going to happen to that Yugo, is it's going to end up with this type of setup on it. Just because it just makes it a lot more compact. And again, I'm not a fan, but remember, I bought that, like, I paid top dollar for that brace. I bought that when, like, the arm brace first came out. Yeah, it is what it is. Okay, I'm going to check the comments real quick, guys. Yeah, quite a few are having to leave. I know I went way over, guys. I'm not trying to press you to stay here. If you guys have to go to bed, I understand. I'm going to keep going, show you guys a couple more RPKs, just because I'm really trying to get some info out on these Yugos, guys. And I'm trying my best at being complete. Still missing a lot, I'm sure, but yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Albert. Let's see here, guys. You guys know how much I normally like to interact with the chat. Tonight, I'm just kind of trying to get through these because, man, it's interesting stuff, and I love the Yugo, you know. Let's see here. All right, night, Francis. Hopefully you come back and watch the rest. Yeah, just like Zeke said. I think I said that right, Zeke. To convert a pistol into a rifle, you need to pin and weld the barrel. Then and only then. So that's important. You have to do it in that order. First, you have to make the barrel. 16 inches or more, and then you can add a stock. So it's important to do it in that thing. I can do a separate stream on RPKs, Warsaw, and I will, but these are Yugos, so I want to tie these in, okay, guys? Because Yugos, I'm just trying to do an AK Yugo stream. And even with this, I'm not going to be able to do all of the Yugos, guys. I'm just doing the best I can. And, you know, I have quite a few of them, but by no means do I own every variant, so I can't show you guys everything. I'd love to show you guys an OPAP. I just don't have one. And I kind of explained why not earlier, right? All right. All right, later, Mike. If you want to see the RPKs, just come back after this renders tomorrow and check it out, you know? Good to see you, though, man. PKM, by the way, that's a separate topic we can talk about later, but I don't have one. Okay, so earlier I told you guys, you know, in general, you know, your M70s are your 7.62x39s. M92 is the crank off, right? You've got your M85s. Well, they also make the RPK. And the RPK is going to fall under what we call an M72 designation. If you want to get into the Yugo, I don't know if this is the best rifle for you to own, but let's just say this. The M72s are the easiest way to get into the game right now. The parts kits are the most plentiful. They're the cheapest. You can actually buy the complete guns. I don't know what the current status is, but up till real recently, Classic Firearms had a bunch of different, you know, M72 RPKs. So, showed you guys this earlier. This is the, again, back to this receiver stub with cut barrel stub. The stupid barrel band, right? This is the M72. Okay. And it's not focusing, but this is an M72 B1. So if you guys haven't noticed yet, A is going to usually signify a folding stock. B is going to be a fixed stock. So the M70 B1 would be more like an OPAP, let's say, right? The military gun that the OPAP was built off of. Now, if you want a fixed stock RPK, you're going to run into an M72 B1, and it just won't focus, but anyways, there we go. So here is a built Yugo. Let me get back in up. Try to get this thing in the frame. It's huge, guys. Here's an M72 B1 RPK. Now, since the M70s are already kind of built off of an RPK, if you will, you're going to instantly start noticing a few of the same features. So we have the bulged front trunnion, right? And I'm knocking stuff off the shelf because this thing's like 8 feet long with a bipod on it, right? So you have the bulged front trunnion, okay? Now here, even though this is a US kit build, this still has the Zastava markings on the rear sight base, right? That's pretty cool. I like that. Now this particular one has, again, unissued Yugoslavian wood. So this is real deal military Yugoslavian wood. This is not USA made, and it's in every way, just like I said, 100% real deal stuff. And I like this one because it's kind of blonde. Most of the Yugos you see have that reddish look just due to like years of use, or sometimes the wood was a little redder than others. Now, if you notice, let me hold this up real quick. Even though this is an RPK and everything's longer about it, you'll find the lower handguard, while it's fatter and it's wider, okay? All right, good night, SwitchPod. Come back and watch the rest, you know, tomorrow or something, so you can see these RPKs. You'll notice the handguard on the RPK is actually substantially shorter, right, than on the AKM variant. It's kind of interesting, right? So these RPKs are going to take their own proprietary handguards. I mean, look at, they're a lot longer. See how there's 3 vent holes in the AKM, 2 vent holes on the RPK, and then just holding them up next to each other. You can see it's easily an inch or so longer on the AKM. So they're kind of a shorter, stubbier, fatter handguards, right? We're going to notice a big difference right here. This is a true RPK profile barrel, meaning the barrel is much, much, much wider, much heavier. And what the Yugos did, which is kind of cool, is they put cooling fins, right? And as we all know, look at like your computer's processor, right? You have a heat sink with fins on it. Anytime there's fins, just the way metal works, the way it naturally dissipates heat, it helps radiate the heat better. So this has what's called a finned barrel. With this build, this is a US made, okay, Green Mountain barrel. So US barrel. This is also a USA made receiver, but it's built on an original military parts kit with original military furniture. The barrel on these, I believe, is 21.5 or 22.5 inches long, so substantially longer than an AKM. And I'm kind of resting it up against my cut here because it's heavy, guys. This is definitely heavy. The rear sights, okay, not only have the standard adjustment like the regular AKs, okay, but they're also windage adjustment, meaning you can drift the rear sight blade left to right with this adjustment screw. So, which other countries' RPKs also have that feature. So it's elevation adjustable, just like, you know, it's from an AK, and also windage. You'll notice the gas port is AKM style. It's in the gas block rather than in the gas tube, which is pretty interesting. While this has the windage adjustable rear sight, it does not have any provisions for a flip-up sight. However, the front actually does. So the front flips up, and there's nothing in this one. But normally you'd see like a white dot of paint in the front, so you could go to the white dot. And I'm sorry, guys, it's just so long, I can't really get it in view. But yeah, there you go. You can kind of see it there. Okay. It has an integral bipod that swivels left to right, which obviously you want that, right? So when you come down, you know, in any position, you can then center the rifle up from there. So yeah, integrally attached bipod. The bipod will come off on this, but you're going to have to first remove the pins and, well, obviously the muzzle vise. Remove the pins. Watch that plunger so it doesn't shoot out at you, right? And press off the front sight base. You guys don't know the easiest trick ever to keep these from shooting off? I'll just give you this real quick tip because it's so obvious, but people don't mention it a lot. You can just push this detent down, right? You can just move the threaded part just enough, see? See how I'm catching it right there? That'll hold it in place for you to drift your pin out, right? And then you can come back after your pin's drifted out, keep pressure on it, remove this, and then capture it from shooting out of the rifle. So I know that's stupid, but just a real quick thing that for some reason nobody talks about, but that's the easy way to keep your spring-loaded detent, because this front pin holds the detent in place too, right? And they literally just go shooting everywhere. Okay, so we got our integrally attached, like I said, attached bipod, right? It'll come back under, and then it has a little, I'm sorry guys, this thing's just so freaking long, it's really hard to do on camera. And it's got a little catch there, so you can tote the rifle around, shoot it like this. It's gonna rattle and everything, right? But yeah, there you go. There's with bipod retracted. And now, while other countries went to like drums and 40-round mags, with the Yugo RPKs, the M72s, this was still a standard fare, just this 30-round mag, right? I've not ever seen, and they may have been prototyped or something. That's the problem with the AK. Every time you try to say always, you're usually wrong, right? So I'm going to say, for the most part, they never issued drums with these or 40-round mags. So, yep. Zastava, Serbia. At that time, Yugoslavia. And that's the thing, too. I think you guys all get it, right? Like, I'm still going to always call these Yugos because, by definition, it says Yugoslavia roll marked on the gun. Present day, though, after Yugoslavia was dissolved, the Zastava factory, it's still there. It's still the same place. It's still called Zastava. It's in Serbia now, right? So, now there's one more RPK I'm going to show you guys, and this is another rare one. I probably saved the most rare for first and last. Well, the M64 is in there too, but this is to keep you guys to the end. This is their standard fare RPK, and there's one more I'm going to show you guys real quick. Yeah, good night, Mateo. And like I said, guys, I'm not expecting you all stay up through this whole thing. A lot of people come back the next day or a week from now and like to watch it at work. So I'm going to keep going a few more minutes. Okay, so we have another Yugoslavian RPK. If you guys remember before what I was showing you, this is all still pretty standard stuff. The fend barrel, right? Same type of wood. This furniture set here happens to be just a little bit darker, right? We've still got the bipod, okay? We've still got the windage and elevation sights. Zastava, Yugoslavia. Now, the M72 B1, that's a fixed stock, right? Well, I said before that A usually was in there for a folding stock. So what this is a rather uncommon underfolding stock Yugo RPK. This, and I'm going to try to focus in on the roll marks, this is an M72 AB1. So instead of a B1, it's an AB1. There we go. Focus. I had it for a split second there. But this is an actual, real deal Zastava M72 AB1. And the reason why I'm showing you the trunnion and trying to get it to focus here one last time is because this is actually roll marked from Yugoslavia AB1. Now, with this being more of a rare variant, a lot of people have been known over the years to take a regular Yugo M72 kit, right, and build it all up in the front, and then affix like an M70 AB2 rear trunnion and folding stock to it, which can be done. And I know some of the guys that have been on the channel before have actually done this, and there's nothing wrong with doing it. It's a cool clone to do. But this one is an actual proper M72 AB1. So if you guys thought that this was just kind of a Franken gun build or just something people were doing for fun, no, it's a real thing. Now, most of these are all going to have 1984 dates, which that's what this one's dated. This one's serial numbers in the high 11,000s. The ones I've observed are usually in the 11,000 range, mid to high 11,000s, into the low 12,000s. There's actually a really small range in which these M72 AB1s were made. And I don't know the exact production numbers, but I know the production numbers were really, really low in actual Yugoslavia, right? And even and the amount of kits that came in here are even more rare. So these are not a common kit by any means, guys, to have in this country, let's just say. Okay, give me 1 second here, guys. Off camera, I'm trying to get this cleaning rod out of here. Because here's usually how you can tell the difference, if you guys are curious, between an M70 B1 that was converted using, you know, the M70 AB2 parts, you can usually tell a difference because I showed you guys earlier how the bipod retainer is actually permanently affixed unless you take off the front sight base. This, being an underfolder, it's actually totally removable. See how there's a couple grooves hooked onto the retainer? Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of the telltale sign where you know you have a true M72 AB1 kit, because you're going to have the removable front bipod, which is pretty fucking cool if you ask me. Let me see if I can do this on camera, guys. It's hard to do. I'm sorry, it's so big. Okay, so our bipod's here, right? If you look here, there's a spot for your finger, a little traction bar there, and there's actually a spring-loaded D10 in the front. So I'm going to push forward on this, and boom, quick connect. It just comes right off. See how this moves front and back? And there's like 3 teeth that line up with these grooves. So this is an underfolding Yugo RPK as issued. This, again, this is all factory original. This is not something that I came up with. This was a factory issued thing, and it's just simply a quick release. Again, this is where doing it on camera is hard. There we go. Yep, and you're right back to go, just like the other one. So, which the reason why they did this is this is kind of like, if you will, a paratrooper model. Now, I don't think their paratroopers actually use these. I'm just calling it that. So if you needed to get this gun real compact, real quick for what it is, underfolding stock, right? The stock's completely functional and quite smooth, if I might add. Okay. Quick release. And now you've got this huge bulky RPK down to an actual manageable size. I mean, the barrel's still really big, but it just got like half as small somehow, right? So there you go. M72 AB1. And if any of you guys have any questions about this, you can ask me right now or come in the comments after the fact. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of you guys left, so I don't know if anyone got excited about seeing this or not, but hopefully if there's any true Yugo fans out there, this was a treat for you guys to see an M72 AB1. I like it. And then also I don't know if anyone noticed this yet, but I threw a somewhat uncommon mag in here too. This is what they call the Bosnian, quote unquote, or Croatian, also called 2-rib mag. So I also figured I'd throw a rare mag in here just for shits and giggles, right? So this has 2 big, broad, fat ribs. Okay. Non-bolt hold open follower. And yeah, this is there's a little bit of folklore about these. Like, no one's exactly sure who made them. They're actually called a Bosnian mag, but many people jump on and say no, they're actually a Croatian mag. I've never heard anyone call it a Serbian mag. So let's say this is probably a Croatian mag if you wanted to ask me, but I'm going to call it a Bosnian 2-rib because that's just kind of what they've been called over the years. Yeah. So I don't know how good of a job I did, guys. I know I ran really long, but I tried my best to just share a little bit of info tonight about the Yugo AKs. I did a whole video about their Tokarevs. That was quite a bit easier. I don't really think I realized what I was biting off here, trying to actually fit all these into one video, but hey, I tried my best, guys. I'll do that later. It's instantly hard to do anything on camera. Real quick here, though, before I get off, and I'm going to get off here in 1 second. Let me go set this over here. All right, so Again, if I ever miss a guy's comment, it's not personal, guys. It's just you know, it's hard to keep track of everything in here. But I do go back there and reread them later. But I do actually pay attention to what some people say in my streams. One of the guys that's a regular on here, Warsaw Patriot, you guys all know him. When I was talking to you guys about this first Soviet currency, remember in the last stream, I talked briefly about the Bolsheviks and what this signified and how it related to current gun control. He said, "Man, I really, really like this. Like, where'd you get it, man? How do you get one?" And then he said, "Like, I wouldn't mind you just sending me a picture, you know? Send me a picture of yours, Glock," because he just wanted to be able to tell his friends the story, I think, because this is the first time the hammer and sickle appeared and Bolsheviks, and you know, you guys were probably here last time. I won't bore you. So this is mine right here. So instead of taking a picture, I was able to pick up another one. Okay. Same thing I have. It looks a little different because, as I told you guys before, these were hand cut, right? But yeah. So here's a 1 ruble of the first Russian currency, and I bought this for Warsaw because he said that he'd really like to have one. By no means did he ask me for this. He literally just wanted a picture of mine, but I paid attention to what he said, and I was checking it out. And so this is basically, although no two are alike, this is exactly like mine. And I already have your address, so I'm going to be mailing this out to you as soon as New Year's is over. So hopefully you enjoy it, man. First Soviet currency. Let's see what we got going here. Zeke's right. Chinese RPK was an American marketing thing. Yes. And even the quote-unquote Chinese RPKs, they're still not real RPKs. They don't have the correct barrel profile. And, yeah, they're not quite there. Oh, geez, Orion Fixer. I like Orion Fixer. He'll literally lurk for hours, right? But at the very end, he comes on. And that's cool that someone's actually just been sitting there watching the whole thing. And don't get me wrong, I like it, the guys that comment, and I'm really glad you guys do, so it shows me to keep going. But I think it's cool that someone will literally be there for hours. He says, if there's one thing for sure, we all know you will run long, and that's a good thing. Shows you have true passion. I do, guys. You know how much I get paid to do these streams? Less than 1 ruble. 0. You guys already know that. I don't get paid a penny. You don't see ads on my channel. You have to have 1,000 subs before you can even put ads on there. And then when you do, like, you make like $1 a month. But anyways, whatever. No, I just do this because I'm trying to have a good time, you know. All right. If there's anything important you guys have to say, spit it out real quick because I'm getting ready to get off here. I ran almost 3 hours. I'm sorry. I don't want to bore you guys. And there's one more thing, too. I'm not going to talk about it right now, guys. I'll do it in the next stream. I'll get a little more political again. I have a complete set of Yugoslavian. So this is a sneak peek for next time. I'm going to give you guys 2 sneak peeks, and then I'm getting off here. I have all the way, okay, from 10 dinaras, okay, up to 100 million dinaras. And if you notice, it's the same girl on there. This is what they call hyperinflation currency, and I'll talk about this a little bit next time. But yeah, this is literally a complete set of Yugoslavian currency during their period of hyperinflation, early 90s. So I'll talk about that next time. And then for you guys is for the warriors that waited all the way to the end, you guys are going to want to come in next time because I'm going to give you a little teaser of something that's been people have been talking about quite a bit. So I'll talk about this a little bit next time. That's the hyperinflation Yugoslavian currency, which is interesting. We also have some old school German currency, okay, from the Weimar Republic, early 19-teens, right? This is when things were still going good in Germany. We also have some German hyperinflation currency from 1923, where all of a sudden it went from 10 Reichsmarks up to 100 million. So this is some German, and this is all original stuff, guys. German hyperinflation currency from 1923. You guys can probably guess who came to power shortly after this, hyperinflation and crash of the economy came in. So yeah, I've got some more hyperinflation currency from Yugoslavia all the way back to 1920s Germany. This is 100 million marks, by the way, guys, in 1923. Yeah, I think you could call that hyperinflation, to say the least, right? And the next thing I'm going to really troll you guys on. I don't think this is going to show up in my next stream, but I'm going to do a video, okay, on this. Focus, please. There we go. On this right here. Okay. Weighs about 25 pounds. I'm not even going to open the box right now. You guys might know what this is, but oh, it actually says what it is, doesn't it? Yeah. There's a little English on there. There we go. That's what I'm going to do a book review on. Coming up here pretty soon. Okay. Lean back, FNH said. Braster wants a Chinese SKS stream. I'm definitely going to do one. I don't know if it'll be the next one or not. It's going to take me a while to get ready for that one. So it's probably not going to be the next one, but it will come eventually. It's going to take me a little time because you guys thought Yugos were long-winded. Chinese SKSs. I don't even know. But no, I do want to do that. I love the SKS. I'm probably into the SKS more than the AK, actually. So, yeah. Bunch of little differences, absolutely. All right, so I appreciate you guys that are still here. It's been 3 hours. Again, I didn't expect you to stay up, but I'm kind of flattered that some of you guys chose to, so that's pretty cool. Let's see, one more question here. Warsaw said, you agree that communism is bad because of the workforce only giving people $2 for a 9-hour workday? I mean, that's part of it. I think that's more of a consequence of the evil of it. There's a lot of evil to it, but yeah, that's part of it. And yes, I think that's a bad thing. Even as a business owner, I wouldn't think that anyone should work for $2 a day. But I don't think that's the big problem with it. I think that's more of a consequence of the actual problem. But yeah, I'll say I agree with you. Yeah, Braster, stamped SKSs. Yep, I actually have more than one. And a cast receiver, too. All right, I'm just taking one last peek here. Again, guys, sorry to keep you up late. You didn't have to. I'm sure a lot of you will come back and watch this the next day, but I'm honored to still have you guys here. Had a good time tonight. So, all right. If you guys have anything else to say, you can leave it in the comments after this renders. Until then, have a good night. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, and definitely hope you have a Happy New Year. And I'll have some more videos coming out here in the next couple days, and I'll have another live stream next week. So, again, thanks FNH and Mateo for moderating. Zeke Shoots. Yeah. Thanks, guys. And, again, have a good one. Be safe on New Year's, guys, Hopefully everyone has a good time. All right. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.